net zero, arguing Britain needs a long-term strategy focused on AI, economic growth and state reform. He urged the Prime Minister to do, quote, whatever it takes to stop the small boats crisis, and said the government shouldn't have stopped President Trump from using its RAF bases during the attacks on Iran. And he says Labour must rethink policy now if it wants to win a second term. gbnews.com/your say for all your thoughts and comments tonight. Again, I say this is an extraordinary intervention which can't really be summed up in a 2-minute introduction. But he calls, as I said, for the scrapping of net zero, total welfare reform, stop the boats from whatever means necessary. I mean, maybe even Tony Blair's been watching GB News, because it sounds a lot like the kind of stuff that at least I've been saying on this show. I'm joined now by journalist and broadcaster Michael Crick and the former advisor and author Stuart Thompson. Good evening to you both. Michael, good evening, good morning rather. Thanks for your company on The Late Show Live. What's your take, please, Michael, on this extraordinary intervention?
Well, I think this is the most powerful manifesto by a Labour politician for decades. And he's not just attacking Starmer, he's attacking the people who might replace Starmer, notably. I mean, he's careful not to name names too much. He's attacking Rachel Reeves. He's attacking Wes Streeting. He's attacking Andy Burnham. I mean, he's basically saying that nobody has yet come up with the right philosophy, the right plan, the right policies. And he says it's pointless getting rid of a prime minister without the party agreeing first where it wants to go, having a goal, an aim, a purpose. And obviously, looking back very much to the way in which he governed, it was much clearer under Tony Blair what he wanted and what radical policies he wanted to bring in. He's very critical of the drift, really, and the huge mistakes that Starmer has made. Notably, I mean, he says Starmer was absolutely right to start off with growth as being the all-important driving force. But then he criticises Starmer and Rees for halting that, really, or severely damaging that aim by granting workers extra trade union rights and also, of course, bringing in higher national insurance contributions for employers. So it is very powerful. It covers a lot of ground. It's not just domestic policy, foreign policy. The overriding point he makes is that we are now living in a world where there are two huge changes taking place. The rapid, very rapid introduction of artificial intelligence, which is going to just change our lives in ways we can't even imagine. And second, the new geopolitics where you have two superpowers, America and China, with India not far behind. So there's a lot of meat in there. I mean, it's almost as if one sits back and thinks, this man is capable of doing what Starmer and all of his cabinet failed to do, which is to think through where they're going and how they're going to get there. And nobody in the Labour Party did that before the last election. They were obsessed with winning that election. They lacked confidence that they really could win that election. Not enough thought was put into all of these things that Tony Blair has now very eloquently done in this essay. Whether it'll make any difference, I doubt. I mean, the other overriding point he makes is that he thinks that at a time when the public seems to be moving to the right, it's crazy for Labour to be moving to the left.
Yeah, and he says as well, he talks about Brexit. He says Brexit in 2016 wasn't the answer to the country's problems, and nor is rejoining the EU. He says that won't solve the country's problems either. They go a lot deeper than that. Stuart, his critics, Tony Blair tonight, sources from Labour are saying, I don't know when the last time Tony Blair was hanging out with a working class voter, maybe a couple of decades ago. They said he's been away with the tech bros for too long, talking about AI and so on, and they just call him completely out of touch. Is there any substance in that counter-argument against him?
No, I think that both aspects are a little bit unfair, but it does read a little bit like a Tony Blair greatest hits. This is all the things that he's been sort of going on about for the last few years, and it's almost as if he believes that nobody is quite as good at leading the Labour Party as he was. Now, some may argue that is indeed the case. But, well, at the end of the day, he was the most successful Labour leader, that there's ever been. But does that give you the right to sort of pontificate ad infinitum, forever? And the answer to that is no. And there are contradictions in these pieces. I mean, it's 5,000-6,000 words long. He sort of talks about some of the things that the Labour Party should have dumped after the election. Well, that's very difficult to go into a general election, win a massive stonking great majority with a manifesto, and then dump some of it a couple of weeks later. That just seems, destined to make the Labour Party unelectable. If they went into that, the next election saying that, we looked at it, actually we didn't like some of it, so we got rid of it unilaterally, I think they would go down incredibly badly and would put the Labour Party, as well as politics as a whole, in a great deal of disrepute.
Yeah, Michael was just translating Blair's sort of essay there, the 6,000-word essay, saying that, look, you haven't really got much direction, but I think voters, even people who were sympathetic to voting for Labour, voting for change after 14 years of Tory rule, I think they were expecting more, because Tony Blair is suggesting, look, you haven't got a plan, you've got no idea or direction on policy, but yet, Michael, they had 14 years in opposition to try and get something together, some sort of spiritual ideology, and they've had so much time, maybe too much time on their hands to think about it, because the end result is nothing.
Well, I think, Labour politically went all over the place in the 14 years in opposition, and of course Starmer got elected on a left-wing platform, and it was all a deception, really, and slowly moved to the right. But they overpromised in 2024. They were far too reckless in the extent of the promises and the costs of the promises, perhaps worrying that they wouldn't get a majority and so on. And actually, I don't think Blair mentions the triple lock, but that's a prime one, surely. That to carry on with the triple lock when it's so costly, but also the policies that they did introduce with it, which is extra national insurance and so on. So it was overpromised, but I think it is slightly unrealistic, as Stuart says, to be able to suddenly say, okay, well, actually, we can't deliver those promises. I suppose he could have said they'll have to be delayed a year or two while we concentrate on getting the growth in order to be able to afford those promises. That would be logical. But there's a coherence about this document, which there isn't in what Starmer says, or, even though he's made some very good Labour conference speeches, that this has got a greater coherence to it than what Starmer says, or to what Burnham says, or to what Wes Streeting says. And indeed, everybody sort of talks as Wes Streeting as being the Blairite candidate, and yet Blair is critical of him as well on Europe, and on Streeting's recent policy, a new policy of equalising the rates of capital gains tax with the rates of income tax. It's a pretty strong dig at Wes Streeting there. It's not at all clear who Blair would want as his Labour leader, but he would say that's not important. What's important is an overriding plan to take us back as a party to the radical centre. And it does make sense that. He doesn't make the point that I would now make, is that the centre ground of politics right now is pretty deserted. The Liberal Democrats are making very little impact, and they're traditionally the centre party, although they've become left of centre. There is a huge space there that Labour could occupy. I think I'm very impressed with this document. And it would take a lot for me to vote Labour, but if Tony Blair was to return as Prime Minister or Labour leader, I think I probably would do so.
I was going to say maybe Blair's teeing himself up for a big return. Stuart, just before I get your final comment, let me play you this clip from Blair talking about Starmer from, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and then I'll just get your reaction to it. Let's play that clip if we have it.
Day after 4 defeats, just as in 1997, we have new leadership and a renewed sense of purpose and mission. Keir Starmer has shown strength, determination and intelligence in setting Labour back on a winning path. He knows a Labour Party true to its principles is a Labour Party dedicated to winning power, to change our country again for the better.
I was going to say, Stuart, what changed? What changed between now and 2022? But I guess Tony Blair was right that Starmer steered the good ship Labour in the right direction after turbulent Corbyn years. But what changed is Starmer. Starmer changed.
It's difficult to know. I mean, is Starmer fundamentally different to the person he was, 3 or 4 years ago? Not really. No. I think the trouble is when Labour gets into government, it spends the first couple of years trying to prove, because it's normally been out of power for such a long period of time, it takes a few years to sort of prove that they can be trusted by the electorate, and that puts them in a sort of a small c conservative position. Blair did the same, you could argue, and I think he may have even admitted this himself, and I think in his book, but he spent the first couple of years not being radical enough. You could argue with a majority that this government has, it's not been radical enough, but that's because they have been absolutely fixated on trying to deliver and incrementally improve that they can be trusted to be in government. And what Blair has done with this particular document is to say he's wheeled out his new favourite, top lessons, AI, some of which will resonate really well with the public, and other bits, for instance, the support of Americans and bases in the Middle East conflict is completely out of step with where the public is. So, and you can't help feeling that he can't escape his own history when he's talking about some of these things as well. So.
Yeah, okay, interesting. Tony Blair saying that it's not about Keir Starmer's personality, not about his character, not the fact that he's not very exciting or bombastic like a Farage or Boris Johnson. He's just saying that he says the principal problem is that the failure to communicate achievements or assert more strongly Labour's values. Thank you both for staying up so late this morning on the Late Show Live. Appreciate your company, Michael, Stuart, and we'll catch up again soon. Let's get the thoughts of Paul Cox down the line in London. Paul, hello. This sounds Tony Blair's sort of dossier essay, scrapping net zero, sorting out welfare, getting a good relationship back on the go with President Trump and the US administration. I mean, by today's standards, I know it's not, but people would call it pretty right-wing.
Yes, they probably would. Look, from a perspective of a guy that is now in his mid-40s and the first person he ever voted for was Tony Blair in this Labour government, having grown up during the Thatcher era, in a working-class family who... I was essentially taught to dislike Thatcher. Those things have all changed since I've grown up, obviously, but... This is delicious. I'll tell you why it's delicious. Essentially, what's happened here is the Labour Party have been told off by their dad. They've got in such a mess. He's left the room for 5 minutes. He's come back in and gone, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? And you think you can lead? All of you sit down now. This is what I'm going to tell you and this is what you're going to do. And I don't know if he knows what that looks like. He probably does. But to have gone to a 5,000, 7,000 word essay publicly, without probably getting any buy-in from anybody else, because why would he? He's Tony Blair, is a huge move and very embarrassing for absolutely everybody at the top of Labour. Tony Blair was successful. Tony Blair inherited something that no other government has inherited since, and that was all of Margaret Thatcher's great work. She made Great Britain rich again, and in doing so, the Labour Party were able to have 4 or 5 very good years as a result. Everything changed in the early 2000s, largely because Labour's policies started to kick in, and also because there were outside influences like 9/11, sadly. But all these things had an impact, and it's never recovered since then.
Yeah, and actually, Tim, if you ask most Brits, they'll say that Britain's decline started in its rapid phase when Tony Blair came to power, opened the floodgates to immigration, all sorts of liberalisation of quangos, this and that, even relaxing. Was it Blair who relaxed gambling rules? But anyway, the immigration is the main thing. That's when the floodgates opened under Blair.
Well, there's a universal principle, which is it's the economy, stupid. That was a thing that was said. James Carville said it during Clinton administration. The economy, stupid. And look, when you embrace a degrowth agenda, you don't get growth. And that's exactly what the left, that's exactly what Labour, and actually the Tories have embraced as well in the United Kingdom. And you're starting to see the fruit of that, where you start falling off the map in terms of polling. Ben, I mean, maybe you have seen it, but I haven't seen a single poll where they're in any way resonating with a close governing majority of people. I mean, it is...
Labour.
Labour, yeah.
No, because they're making a complete pig's ear of it.
Exactly.
As Michael Crick said, they've had 14 years to get ready.
Yeah.
They finally took power after screaming at the Tories for all that time, and they've just been left devoid of ideas and inspiration.
Yep.
No idea.
And by the way, and just to say this again, if you look at the GDP numbers, that's a very important thing, because when you have growth, that means you don't just have businesses hiring, businesses growing. You also have more government revenue coming in, which means you don't have to raise taxes and do different schemes like a pub tax or some sort of tax to get more money to keep the government going. The degrowth agenda is the death of any economy, and that's exactly what Labour has done, and I think Blair knows that.
Yeah. Angelina as well, I will say, I don't want Labour to fail. I will sit here tonight and tell you, I do not want this Labour government to fail, because if they fail, the country goes even further down the pan. I want them to prove me wrong and prove me that they're not incompetent, that they do have some sort of ideology, that they do have an idea of how to make growth and improve people's lives and grow GDP per capita, which is the truest form, and that they do have a plan to stop the boats. I want them to prove me wrong, but I ain't going to hold my breath for the next 3 years, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely you want to see Britain succeed. I feel the same way. When I oppose my own government, I still want to see my government succeed, even if I disagree with them politically. Now, at the end of the day, that's better for the countrymen. But Tony Blair really sticking out, you know, his name, writing this whole political op-ed, it feels like he's just really thirsty to get back in the game. He's not someone who's well respected in politics. He's not someone who's well respected in geopolitics whatsoever. You know, he's part of the Board of Peace.
I don't know what's that.
I think he's respected.
He's respected. Yeah, I think he's respected.
I don't think the international stage hates him as much as Brits, but
Brits definitely, he's definitely doesn't have a great reputation. I think Americans really don't feel great towards Tony Blair. So,
but he's stuck with George W.
Yeah, he's too tied to the
they
Iraq
prayed
war
together.
And what happened there?
They did pray together. That's true.
The
good old days.
Okay. Oh, well, there we go.
By the way, all the footage that they're showing is Blair back in the early 2000s. He looks great, man.
Tony Blair, front page of The Independent, why Labour must return to the radical centre to reverse Britain's decline.
Sorry,
By
Ben.
the way, Tony Blair, by the way, Labour, let me tell you now, go on, Paul, it's not radical. The radical
No,
centre.
I'm so sorry.
Radical. It's just common sense.
Yeah, honestly, I can't stop laughing at the idea there's any radicalism in the centre for a start. There isn't, and the idea that for me, that's a clear insight into how Tony thinks. I don't know him. How far Tony Blair thinks the Labour Party has gone to the left, because he wants to push them right the way back to the centre. And we know that there's going to be a knee-jerk reaction, and he's saying this now for a very good reason. We're on the cusp of a leadership battle, and a really clumsy leadership battle, by the way. Andy Barnum might not become eligible to challenge the leadership because he might not win that by-election. And if he doesn't, he could also lose the mayoralship in Manchester, so the Labour Party could take a right kick in, but Andy Burnham's career could be over, and Keir Starmer could still be in power, because whoever's going to challenge him from within the party, we've already told is rubbish. The Labour Party themselves have told absolutely everybody who will listen, we are so rubbish that we need to get a bloke that tried to get to the top of the Labour Party twice and failed, once, by the way, to Jeremy Corbyn. Good grief. And now they want to bring him back, and there's still a chance that he might not be able to come back.
All right. Yeah, and all this, they're not even 2 years in after their July 24 election win. They're not even 24 months in. Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live this evening.
I mean, do we want to go and just blast the hell out of him and finish him forever, or do we want to try and make a deal?
Well, after last night's US attacks on Iran, the regime accused President Trump of gross violation of the ceasefire. But meanwhile, Iran says oil tankers have started to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Are we any closer to the end of this conflict? Again, in this example, I'm still not holding my breath. Back in a sec on The Late Show Live.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back. Right, Iran's IRGC Navy says 25 oil tankers, container ships and other commercial vessels have passed through the Strait of Hormuz. Hallelujah. Well, breaking in the last few moments, new research has revealed 8 in 10 UK businesses say they've been hit by the Iran conflict, including rising fuel, energy costs, part of the biggest concerns, alongside shipping delays and supply chain disruption. 1 in 5 firms have now paused investment plans because of its uncertainty, while many warn higher costs could soon be passed on to consumers. Barclays, the bank, says businesses are operating in an environment where uncertainty has now become the norm. And I have to say, for businesses in the UK, it's been a really tough couple of years. You had Russia, Ukraine, you had COVID, you had all the stuff about Brexit as well, and now you've got this situation in Iran. Tonight, though, President Trump, this side of the pond, has said a major cabinet meeting that was meant to be in Camp David will now be held in the White House tomorrow. That's because of bad weather. With me now is friend of the show, Newsmax's Bianca Della Garza, host of Bianca Across the Nation on Newsmax. Hey, Bianca, good to see you. Thanks for joining us on The Late Show Live. Fingers crossed we're coming towards the end of this Iran conflict, I hope. Gas prices on average all across the US, Bianca, falling $4.40 now, although still over $6 in California. Crude oil is down to 93. What's your assessment of where we are right now with the Iran conflict, Bianca?
I think everyone's just taking a deep breath. We thought they were close. It all centered on, of course, the critical Strait of Hormuz, which is impacting prices here. Prices, as you just mentioned, in the UK, and also would they hand over the nuclear dust. A couple of interesting developments, though, happened today, and it's follow the money, Ben. There are reports that Iran wants $24 billion of frozen assets unfrozen. That's going to be a no-go. There was also a report that Qatar and Doha was going to lend Iran $12 billion for, quote, humanitarian reasons. Qatar stepped away and sort of now is saying that's not accurate. But if that is going to be one of the demands from Iran, it's obviously going to be a no-go. And I think also another development that you may find interesting as well, because you've been on the air in the past 47 minutes, they've just restored internet service. There was a back and forth of whether or not they would do that in Iran. You have to wonder if that's because they are getting ready to pump out more propaganda to try and convince that they are actually winning this war. So that's just some of the top lines as far as where I think this deal could go sideways. And right now, I think that's looking like a bigger chance, unfortunately.
Wow, yeah, interesting about the unfrozen assets. I mean, if they're saying it's for humanitarian reasons, I can probably translate that as pumping loads more money to the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah. I wouldn't trust the IRGC or even those in Qatar to fund any humanitarian causes with that money. Bianca, just tell me personally, would you support sort of the turning of the screw, the resumption of violence? Because I do wonder at this point. I think about the brave Iranian protesters who took to the streets en masse in January and February, tens of thousands losing their lives in the process for the cause. And I just wonder how they would feel, those people, at the point where we are now, because we don't really hear much about the overthrowing of the government, the changing of the regime. I know the president says, well, it is a new regime because the previous Ayatollah's gone, we've got new guys in, but it's kind of not really, is it?
No, it's not. I think everyone sort of understands that the regime change and what really ultimately has to be, it does have to come from within, as you correctly and rightfully point out. And we really haven't heard much about how would they do that? How would they get arms? How would they fight? We saw the tens of thousands of just brutal murders at the hands of the regime. So I think we're leaning into a place where it would be a resuming of military strikes, which at that point you have to hope that the action would cause massive defections in the IRGC. And if it is about money, Ben, all of that diplomacy, which also has some very unfortunate part of diplomacy is making a deal where people feel a reason to defect, feel a reason to get out. The IRGC obviously has many soldiers, so it's been harder, I think, than some had really thought going in on what it would look like. Another threat about all of this is we have so many allies in the Gulf. America does, and they've been standing strong with us, the UAE, the GCC countries. But developing today, Oman, which sits right there, obviously very critical in the Strait of Hormuz, their sultan has now just, according to reports from FARS, so you have to take it obviously with the fact that it's coming from Iran, but they have signed some trade and economic deals. So you have to wonder, breaking with some of the solidarity with the UAE and America, who would obviously be lockstep if military resumes, if the money won't be unfrozen. You wonder why the Sultan of Oman is now opening up more trade and economic, as if they would be the country that says, hey, we'll do business with you, Iran. And that also undercuts all the tough sanctions that we've been talking about, and the ones that have really put the regime on its heels, losing $500 million a day, according to Secretary of State Marco Rubio. So that's setting up to be, I think, a big storyline tomorrow as far as regionally, who's going to give Iran a lifeline, and obviously working to keep them isolated, working to keep them a pariah, bankrupt them, would be the greatest hope to free the people who are oppressed.
Yeah, great stuff, Bianca. And I suggest that Oman situation will be top of the cabinet meeting's agenda tomorrow when they meet in the White House. I don't know why they're meeting in the White House. The weather's been pretty sedate here in the last couple of days. I think they were meant to be taking off from Camp David, right? But anyway, what do I know?
There's some rain in the forecast. Apparently not great for helicopters, I think. Was that part of it?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, potentially. Bianca, thank you so much. Appreciate you as always. Bianca Della Garza, Newsmax superstar, friend of the show. We'll speak soon. Thanks, Bianca. Right, let's get the thoughts on my panel in DC, Angelina and Tim. Tim, your thoughts on Iran. I was saying off air to you, I just don't know who to believe. So-and-so will report, say, sources from this outlet in Iran says this, and so-and-so cites this source. None of it none of it really matters anymore. Until a deal is struck or hostilities resume, I'm kind of, and I will say this, I'm kind of not interested.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And by the way, I think that it's very, very important. Over the weekend, my wife was apoplectic, and several of my friends were apoplectic about, oh my gosh, this deal that is being rumored is terrible, and they were acting as if it was this deal, actually the text of the deal, and you lose focus of what Trump has said for the last 40, 50 years that he's been talking about Iran, which is they can't be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, they can't be allowd to export their terrorism abroad, and they can't be allowed to reach our allies and us with missiles. They just can't. That can't happen. And so it'd be a really, really laughable thing for me to believe that Trump would leave, I think, the world hanging with going and doing all of this and then just not finish following through with it. Yeah. And so I think that that's something that you have to keep in mind. As uncomfortable as high as gas prices are getting, this is, as the Trump administration is saying, the price that we're paying for it.
Yeah, and that's why maybe I was a little bit miffed yesterday because like your friends or family who you were talking about then saying, well, this wasn't, this is worse than we had before. I just want the IRGC eliminated. I understand what they do. I understand how they're running riot all across, the UK. I'm a Brit. I'll talk about the UK. I see how they treat their own people. I want them eliminated. I want them to have no accessibility to nuclear weapons and enriched uranium. And I just think, get on with the job. Call me a war hawk. Again, I've said night on night. Just turn the screw and finish the job.
Can I just? It's a great point. I just wanted to follow up with the poll that you were saying with. I think it was Barclays that said 80% of business in the UK are worse off because of the war in Iran. Look, I don't want to speak for a business owner. That'd be the worst possible thing. What I will say is this: homegrown policy is worse than a foreign conflict. And so whatever is happening in that country, we can't allow bad policy to be overlooked.
Yeah. No, indeed. If the Labour government cut regulation and they cut corporation tax and were more sort of generous, nobody can run a business in the UK at the moment. It's just pointless. The Iran situation, doesn't really matter. Angelina, your thoughts on Iran?
Yeah, exactly what you said. We don't really know what the truth is when you're reporting on this matter, subject matter. So Donald Trump said this, or the Iranian regime said this, or Iranian state media said this. We don't really have a full picture of what is actually going on. The U.S. did break the ceasefire. We did strike self-defense weapons, strikes at Iran. It's not really clear what that was a self-defense against, maybe a maritime, protecting a maritime route or something like this. But yeah, the U.S. is being accused of breaking the ceasefire. So how will that delay any kind of type of an agreement with Iran? It's definitely detrimental.
Yeah, they said it was a gross violation of the ceasefire. The Foreign Ministry said that the strike in Iran's southern Hormozgan region, where media reported sounds of explosions early Tuesday, etc.
But wasn't that because they were laying mines in the strait, which is a violation of the
CENTCOM said they were laying mines. Okay. So there we go. Right, gbnews.com/your say. Everybody, get your comments and your thoughts in. Right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
Any internal upset, not that's yet been made known to me. And if there is, tough. Right, thank you.
Well, what's going on here then? Two senior reform figures are having a public spat over the party's deportation policy. Are they consistent with their policy? What is the policy? We'll discuss that in just a sec. Don't go anywhere.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Reform UK is facing internal divisions, reportedly, over its deportation policy. That's after Zia Youssef, the party's Home Affairs spokesperson, publicly contradicted his colleague Robert Jenrick about basically kicking people out of social homes, foreigners from social homes. So the Treasury spokesman suggested foreign nationals in council housing wouldn't automatically face deportation. That was in a Sky News interview with Trevor Phillips. But Mr Youssef insisted anyone in taxpayer-funded social housing would instantly fail reform's economic test and be removed from the country. So, joining me to discuss this is Matthew Holbert, former Lib Dem councillor, and Rob Bates, the research director at the Centre for Migration Control. Good morning to you both. Rob Bates, what is reform's policy? Is it automatically kicking out any foreign nationals in council housing, or is it we'll have a look at it?
Well, I think both these chaps are actually generally on the same page. I think all that happened really was that Robert Jenrick, when discussing it, was talking more about the mechanics of how the process would work. So they're, of course, scrapping indefinite leave to remain and applying those with that status to reapply for a visa. And I think actually, if you're in social housing, the likelihood is that you would not really have a cat in hell's chance of passing any economic test that actually made sure that migrants coming to the UK were making any worthwhile economic contributions. So they would not be allocated the new visa that reform would produce. And therefore, they would have two options. They could either leave the country because they don't have a visa, or they would be overstaying a visa. They would be an illegal migrant, and they would therefore be deported. So I think it was more of a case, it seems to me, as sort of at what level of grading they were wanting to discuss the policy issue. And I think actually it probably has been slightly blown up, this dispute, because, you know, the social housing issue now I think is settled. I think it's ridiculous that we've got 400,000 foreign national households in the UK in social housing. I think most of the country agree with that as well. I think it's just how we go about doing it. It's a procedural thing more than anything.
Yeah, I agree with you on the assessment of of the differing positions. I think Robert Jenrick was probably just tiptoeing around the issue more, maybe trying to explain it in some sort of roundabout detail. And yeah, Zia has re-quoted the clip, gone onto X and said that his answer is wrong. I do have to ask you though, Rob, just on this one, why is it wise for Zia to have done that? Because what it's done is it's given people ammo to say, well, look, you lot can't even get your eggs in a row, and now you're fighting like rats in a sack. That's the accusation.
Yeah, well, I think it's something that is definitely now being spoken about a lot on social media, and I think probably it's transpired in certain news outlets as well. So, you know, I think we do need to be perfectly clear when it comes to talking about immigration. And I think actually if you're making bold policy proposals such as Reform are doing, that you are all singing from the same hymn sheet, and if you're not, then you're thrashing it out behind closed doors. And, you know, that clip that Farage previously saying, let's talk about it behind closed doors. I think they're probably all reflecting on it today.
But then I guess giving Zia credit, Matthew Holbert, at least he's come out and clarified the position, because what people were doing is, particularly from Restore, they were retweeting that generic clip and saying, look, Reform are really soft on immigration, Restore's the one you want to go to. And so I think Zia has taken it upon himself, probably rightly in hindsight, to say, actually, guys, no, this is the position, Matthew.
Hi, Ben. Good to be with you this morning, and hello to Rob as well. Well, I predicted a while back on this channel and elsewhere that Reform UK would implode, and I believe that now more than ever. Indeed, I think it's already starting to happen. Two of their top spokespeople fighting, as you quite rightly say, Ben, like rats in a sack. I posted on X earlier that
I don't think they're fighting like rats in a sack. That's just what people are saying, just to be clear about that.
Okay, well, I said earlier on X that they're not fit to run a you-know-what in a brewery, and I'd go further than that they're not fit to be in opposition, let alone a government. What an absolute rat bag of a political party, and I think people more and more are beginning to see that. Truly dreadful.
When you say more and more people are beginning to see that, with respect, Matthew, they just wiped out everybody at the local elections, and their leading polls, they're at 29, 30, 31%. So what are you talking about?
Yeah, they did well in the local elections, but I think we'll pretty quickly see buyer's remorse as a result of that. Indeed, apparently today, as it happens in Redditch, Reform, despite being the much larger group, have put the 4 Tories in control of the borough council. What does that say about the confidence of Reform elected representatives? They get given power and they don't want it apparently anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read that case, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. We've got a clip of Farage talking about infighting in Reform from, I think it was around 6 months ago. Let's take a quick look at that, and Rob, I'll get your response off the back.
The internal upset, not that's yet been made known to me. And if there is, tough. Right, thank you. We're not mucking about here. We haven't got time. The country's in too much trouble. We've got to get on with the job.
And Rob, as I said, I guess they are not mucking about, which is why Zia Youssef was quick to stamp out any sort of question marks or ambiguity about Jenric's answer. That's why he went on X and said, well, actually, guys, just for clarification, this is the policy. So they aren't mucking about.
Yeah, I think it was probably something that with hindsight he doesn't wish he has done, just because of the way there has been a reaction. I just think taking a step back and just focusing on the state of the country, that we know what the problems are now. We know it's inward migration being crazy levels, the small boats crisis, the fact that 1 in 5 people living in this country were born overseas, and I think actually now when we're putting forward proposals, it is incumbent on politicians of parties to make sure that they are all singing from the same hymn sheet, and they are speaking with absolute clarity, because it is a time now to not just keep diagnosing the problems, but to actually set out very, very solid policy prescriptions on how we get ourselves out of the mess that we are in.
Yeah, Matthew, last word to you. Just on the policy itself, deporting foreign nationals languishing in council houses, good idea? No? Surely everybody, as Rob said, can support that?
Well, I mean, it's interesting how you seek to phrase it there, Ben. I mean, I would say, people from overseas who are legally living here and who have been given housing and treated with dignity as human beings. But I don't know what it says about us that we both choose to phrase it differently in that way.
Sorry, I'm lost. What do you mean? The way I phrased it, what did I say that you have an issue with?
Well, foreign nationals languishing in social housing. As I say, I would choose to say people from overseas who are legally here and who have been given...
Matthew, come on. They are foreign nationals languishing in council housing. What's wrong with it's hardly the most far-right rhetoric you've ever heard.
How are they languishing? Do you mean living in? Is that what you mean, Ben? Living in?
Well, they're living there at the curtain. They're sat there. Languishing means just being around and just sitting there, really. They are just sitting there because they're not working for the most of the time, I suspect, because they wouldn't be in council housing otherwise, Rob.
Well, they're not allowed to work, are they? So you can't have it always round, Ben. Come on. I mean, either be consistent or, don't bother.
Well, These won't be asylum seekers in large part. The 400,000 households aren't asylum seekers. In large part, they'll be legal migrants who are given settled status under the ridiculous indefinitely to remain rules that we have in this country, and therefore
legal
they get
legal.
State. Say
Legal.
that again, sorry.
Legal.
Well, they are
You said it right there. Legal.
They're allowed to expire for a whole host of reasons, and it is up to a sovereign government of the United Kingdom to decide what they do with their own visa policy, unless you're saying that just because a decision was taken by a previous government, then the hands of successors are bound ad infinitum with no end in sight. And I think actually this is where the conversation starts getting dragged off, killed by those that perhaps don't understand the ins and outs. You know, we see hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals have their visas expire every single year, and this is really actually what the policy that's being put forward is that we're debating. It is this suggestion that actually if you're not making the economic contribution whilst you're in Britain, you don't therefore get the right to continually have a visa renewed, and therefore you do leave the country. And if you don't leave the country, you're an illegal migrant, and then you get deported.
But do you accept that, you know, you can't criticise them for not working if they're not allowed to work? I mean, that circle can't be squared.
They are allowed to work.
I don't understand.
They're legal migrants. They're allowed to work. They're here legally. They've been given the courtesy of being welcomed into the UK. They're allowed to work, and instead they're sponging off the state when there's British people on housing waiting lists, tens of thousands of them. So yeah, go home. If you're going to come here legally, and the government said, welcome inside to Great Britain, the world is your oyster. Make of whatever life you can. Instead they say, well, actually no, I'll just sponge off the state, thanks, and sit in the council house. Yeah, go home. I don't care if you think that's like insulting or inhumane. Tough. Everybody, most people who agree with me. Matthew, thank you. Appreciate your company. And you, Rob Pace, as well. Take care. We'll chat soon. GBnews.com/your say. Still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight. I'll have your front pages for you, including this bonkers story that splashes in the Sun, quite literally. It's the story that bosses of a water firm have told parents to only half-fill paddling pools despite reservoirs being full. Do you know what I'd say to that? I'd say absolutely not. I'd keep the tap on. Right, back in a sec.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point.
Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Alrighty then, front page of The Sun, paddling fools is the headline. Let's get the thoughts of Paul Cox. The headline reads, Paul, it's 35 degrees and water chiefs are moaning about kids' pools being filled up. Well, yeah, your take on this. Reservoirs are full, by the way.
Yeah, look, it's ridiculous. They're just feeding this stuff in. I can tell you from previous work experience when I had a real job in the old days that these water companies, particularly Thames Water back in the early 2000s, were incredibly bad at managing water leaks and waste. Look, this is one day. It just feeds into the narrative, though, doesn't it? That we've got a couple of days of good weather, and there are some people who just are not going to allow us to enjoy it. Whether it's to scare us to death because of climate alarmism, or whether we can only fill up. Look, it's turf me. That is incredible. It's like a fever dream. This is what I've always wanted.
That's what happens when you're dehydrated. When you keep the taps off and you try and save the water, you go a bit bonkers. You see two of Paul Cox.
Oh my God! Yeah, you are struggling at home. But yeah, look, this is absolutely nuts. And of course, if you're listening and you've got the grandchildren coming over tomorrow, fill the pool up, and like Ben says, just let a little bit into the flower bed. Let them flowers grow as well. Don't worry about it, because.
Paul, Stephen has said, I lived through the summer of 76 when water almost ran out. Water is a finite resource, Ben. I think he's telling you and I to be more responsible.
Yeah, he's I think what they call in this country, he's a bit of a wally. He's a bit of a wally. And everyone's opinions are welcome, but that's a nonsense. I grew up with parents that lived through 76 and the winter of 62. If you listen to them, they made it sound like the winter of 62 went all the way through to 76, and then 76 was like the biggest problem that ever happened to planet Earth. And do you know what? If you lived through it, maybe it was. I wasn't born till 79. But the sort of weather we're having today... they see in southern states of the US on December. Like, it's 30 degrees. Yeah. It's not the end of the world, guys.
Well, enjoy yourselves. We had a bit of a heat wave here in DC the start of last week. I got sunburnt within about 20 minutes. The UV was insane. And now we've had rain and grey skies, which as an Englishman I have loved. Loved nothing more than walking out across the bridge with the rain. It's been great. Everybody stays inside, you bunch of snowflakes, Americans. Anyway, more coming up in the next hour, including this. Who is that? Which cabinet member of Trump's top team is chasing down snakes in Dr. Oz's patio? Any ideas? Answers on a postcard. Back in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure still holding on for most of us today. Plenty of sunny spells, the risk of a few thundery showers and a little cooler for most of us. Those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern parts of England too. A bit of a northeasterly breeze here through the day, but the clouds should lift and break. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, but we could see some clouds bubbling up into the afternoon. The risk of some showers across parts of Wales, the West Midlands in particular. In the southwest, we'll see temperatures reaching the low 30s, but much cooler towards the north and east, around 14 to 15 Celsius along some eastern coast, so chillier compared to recent days. Into this evening time, the risk of further showers, but if we zoom into Scotland, a fine end to the day here. Plenty of sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens. Still rather cloudy though across towards Edinburgh, down towards the borders, but there'll be some glimmers of sunshine. Similar across Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine to end the day. today, and the risk of showers across Wales into the Midlands. Some of these are thundery at times, but lots of places dry and still very warm in that evening sunshine, with temperatures in the mid to high 20s in places. Showers will feed north and eastwards as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight across England and Wales. Some heavy downpours developing, the odd rumble of thunder possible. Elsewhere, generally dry, particularly across parts of Scotland, and temperatures here in the countryside will dip into single figures. But for most, another warm night, not quite as warm as recent nights, but staying in double figures. Thursday is a bit more of a mixed day, some low cloud across parts of Wales and southwest England around the coast, showers pushing northwards, but plenty of sunshine in between. The sunshine quite abundant across parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland for a time before some cloud moves in here. Later on in the day, some high cloud across England and Wales later, the risk of a few showers. Temperatures once again the high 20s to low 30s towards the south.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, good morning. Live from Washington, this is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
President Putin, I say, we see you.
Breaking tonight, a spy chief has warned Russia is relentlessly hacking the United Kingdom. They've been targeting critical infrastructure, NHS trust, democratic processes, supply chains and public confidence. That's according to a top spook.
The question now is not whether we do something, we are going to act. I'm absolutely clear.
The Prime Minister met with bereaved parents of children whose deaths were linked to social media a bit earlier today. He hinted at a social media ban, supported, by the way, by the likes of Angela Rayner, saying it will be announced within weeks, not months. And who's that scallywag running around the patio of Dr. Oz? He's a Trump cabinet member. He has no fear, apparently, about chasing snakes. Bitten multiple times. He's braver than I am. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Hello, good morning, hope you're well and you've had a great, I was about to say Saturday, it's Tuesday today, goodness me. Tuesday, hope you're well and your Tuesday's been great and your Wednesday's going to be even better. Joining me in DC this evening is Angela McCarthy and Tim Dosha, and in London, Paul Cox is with us tonight. I'm pleased to say thank you, Paul, for your company. We'll catch up in just a tick. Right, breaking tonight. Britain is facing relentless cyber aggression from Russia. That's according to GCHQ chief Anne Keast-Butler. She says hostile states are targeting UK infrastructure, supply chains and public trust on a daily basis. It comes as cyber attacks linked to Russia, China and Iran continue to rise, with officials urging businesses and households even to urgently strengthen online security protections. Well, with me now is Elizabeth Braw, the Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's Transatlantic Security Initiative. Hello, Elizabeth. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live. We're talking about predominantly Russia here, Elizabeth. Just first of all, cover off Russia, and then I want to ask you some questions about, we talked about households there. We've just purchased a new doorbell, a camera doorbell at our home in the UK, which is owned by, I'll tell you in a second. But anyway, let's talk about Russia first of all. The threat to UK institutions, organisations, even the NHS, Elizabeth.
Yes, this is a serious business and serious stuff. Serious business for Russia, troubling news for us, although it's not really news. What has been happening for the past few years is that Russia has become much more brazen in how it has attacked, chosen to attack Western countries. It has been attacking us in cyberspace for a long time, but now it seems to have pulled out all the stops, which is why it's so important for us to take Russia seriously as a threat. The aggression, the attacks go on a daily basis, in fact, on an hourly basis.
Elizabeth, some people watching this who maybe don't agree with the Ukraine war, don't agree with sending billions of pounds to arm Ukraine in their fight against Russia after the invasion, they'd probably say something like, this is just propaganda trying to big up the threat of Russia when actually it's non-existent and that kind of thing. What's your response to those people?
Well, the first thing to look at are the number of cyber attacks sustained by the UK. This is not a number you think up. It's a number that you collect as UK institutions, and by the way, those numbers are collected by the government. But you can ask any company, for example, about the number and kinds of cyber attacks it has sustained in any given period, and they will tell you it has become worse. And then when you ask people who can trace cyber attacks, they will tell you that in many cases that trace leads to Russia. And it's important to remember that it's not just cyber attacks. Russia is not behind everything that goes wrong in our societies. It wasn't behind, for example, the power outage at Heathrow that everybody thought Russia was behind. Sometimes things happen anyway without Russian involvement, but Russia is very active in trying to harm the UK and other countries. For example, within the past couple of years, the number of cases where ordinary citizens in the UK have been recruited by Russian agents on Telegram and similar apps to carry out sabotage right here in the UK and in countries like Poland, Germany and so forth. Those cases have increased very quickly. So we should worry about cyber attacks, but we should also worry about these other attacks.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at what they've done physically in the UK over recent years, you've got the Skripal poisonings, maybe one other poisoning as well with Alexander Litvinenko, was that his name? And yeah, everything that happened in Salisbury. I don't know why it's beyond people's imaginations to think that they would be doing things such as trying to take down NHS trusts, stealing data, and so on and so on. Elizabeth, just before I let you go, because you are an expert in this, somebody I know has just installed a doorbell, a video doorbell on their home. It wasn't a Ring one owned by Amazon. It was a Chinese one. Is there a risk in installing a Chinese-owned video doorbell at your home in the United Kingdom?
Well, all technology can get used by those who wish to exploit it, and it is a risk. Digital life is a risk. It's incredibly convenient, but it's also a risk. There is a risk that the technology may malfunction. There is also a risk that that bad actors will exploit or take advantage of it. So it's a good thing to have a door camera, but let's not kid ourselves. Modern life, especially digital life, exposes us to new harm, and it's just something worth bearing in mind. And it's also worth changing passwords and various security setups regularly, so that you make life harder for those that try to cause harm to our societies. And by the way, nobody should think they are too small or too unimportant to be caught in one of these attacks. It's not about you. It's about whether you and the system you use is low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on GB News and The Late Show Live. Elizabeth Braw, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's Transatlantic Security Initiative. Paul Henderson, on your say. Hi, Paul. Good morning. You said cyber attacks from Russia are going to be the least of our problems when the Chinese super embassies built over our internet cabling in London. Yeah, well said, Paul. Tammy said Russia want the shipping routes, as then he controls Europe. And where are we? Yeah, that's probably about it. Tim, your thoughts on this? Russia, a big issue here with cyber attacks and so on? I mean, it's an understatement, isn't it?
Well, look, I mean, Russia is always going to take the opportunity to infiltrate where they can. I think that they would like to sow distrust. But, you know, it's funny because you have politicians who don't really do much, who then say, well, we need to ban stuff, or we need to completely go after the liberties and the freedoms that we enjoy in order to defeat an outside terror threat or an outside bother that we see. And that's just fundamentally just wrong. I mean, you can walk and chew gum at the same time, Ben, and I think that that is exactly what the posture that a winning administration goes after. And I got to be honest with you, if I'm tracking Labour right now and Sir Keir Starmer, I don't think that he can walk, let alone chew gum at all. So I think that, yeah, and I think that that's not this is not the situation that he's going to be able to thrive in.
No. Angelina?
I mean, look, you still have... at the end of the day, Russia still very much is a threat to Europe all across the board. And, you know, as President Trump, to give him credit, he's even called out different European partners for continuing to trade to Russia while you still face this aggression. Another thing, though, I would point out is Ukraine and how they're performing militarily, right? They totally superseded expectations. Right now, Putin, there's a lot of warnings out there that Putin has been in hiding. He hasn't been seen in public in Russia since March 9th. Sorry, he did do his public visit in China. But that was different. He's doing a lot of different pre-recorded statements in hiding area. Also, Ukraine has been able to prove that they can launch missiles into Russia's mainland. So he's there's rumors that Putin's afraid of a coup and that the leaders in Russia are getting exhausted by the war, economic crisis, and then of course that Ukraine might have the potential capabilities to actually strike him.
I should hope Ukraine are exceeding expectations with all the amounts of taxpayer money they've received
billions
from both sides of the pond. But yeah, they can now manufacture their own Flamingo missiles, which are the long-range missiles which can strike deep into Russian territory. And do you know what? I don't really care about Russia. What they've done. I mean, even people on your side are saying, Ben, Portsmouth Down is the home of the UK bioweapons, very close to Salisbury. It wasn't the Russians. It was. Look, I love a conspiracy theory, but of course it was. It was the Russians poisoning Litvinenko Litvinenko leaving, was it Novichok, just leaving Novichok everywhere. I don't care about Russia. They also invaded another country. I don't care about the argument about NATO. They invaded a sovereign country.
Yeah, and just really quick, one interesting part is a third of the entire Russian government revenue comes from what? Comes from oil. And I think it's a really interesting point right now. Russia is now in big city money because oil prices are higher. So I think that they might get ahead of their skis at this point, and they are recouping some of that money that they've lost.
Interesting.
It's an interesting bit.
Yeah. Call me old-fashioned on your say. Hello, call me old-fashioned. You've said, is Russia a threat to US democracy, or is Israel that owns and installs US politicians? It's pretty hard to ignore the massive elephant in the room. Joan has said, the land that China owns for embassies should be compulsory purchase. No one other than their own government should be allowed to build there. Not aggressive to China, just common sense wouldn't be permitted in the United States. This is then Defence Secretary Gavin Williamson in 2018 talking about Russia, which is pretty much my stance now. Go away and shut up.
Frankly, Russia should go away, it should shut up. But if they do respond to the action that we've taken, we'll consider it carefully and we'll look at our options.
But Paul Cox, Shelley on your say has said, re Russia, it's likely because of our involvement with the Ukrainian war, isn't it? Well, yeah. But she said, we'll never know what intelligence in this country, what we're doing to Russia in much the same fashion. I bet they're doing pretty much the same thing. Paul.
Look, that's a big sigh because I think there is a huge blind spot, particularly on the right of politics, about Russia sometimes, and the idea that it's the left peddling because of Ukraine. You can take Ukraine out of this. I used to work in the defence sector. I've worked at Porton Down. It didn't come from there. I mean, no one's going to believe me, but it didn't come from there. And Russia. The thing to understand is Putin is involved, OK? Putin is not Gorbachev or Yeltsin. He despised the falling of the Berlin Wall. He wants to bring Russia back to a place that no longer exists for Russia. And he's doing so very aggressively with people on both the left and right of politics helping him on a very regular basis because they don't believe he's capable of these things. He's one of our biggest threats. Maybe not the biggest threat, but it's definitely one of our biggest threats. This will ignite the GB News family and the Your Say comments because I genuinely believe a lot of people don't believe that to be a fact in any way. Look, it is. It simply is. If you worked in defence in the last 30 years, you know that it is. I'm not saying it's the biggest problem, but it's definitely a problem. And because we're distracted all the time by overly progressive woke politics or things going on in the Middle East or actually focusing towards the US or whatever it might be, people do get distracted from the fact that Russia still is the bad guy, Ben.
Yeah, and they're also the bad guys at hotels across Turkey. I stayed in a hotel in Turkey and having to deal with those Russians, goodness me, I was Slavo-Ukraini full weight all the way after that.
Were you getting a hair procedure done there?
Get the invasion of Crimea or the invasion in 22, the way they behave at that hotel.
Were you getting a facelift there in Turkey? Is that what you were doing over there?
No chance.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's the most beautiful man on GB News. He doesn't need anything.
I've had my Botox. No, I'm joking. I've had nothing. I don't need anything. I'm 36 going on 12. I don't need any work done. Right, thank you guys. Appreciate it. gbnews.com/your say. Let's move on to another story. The government is being urged to act quickly by banning social media for under 16s. Earlier, bereft parents of children whose deaths were linked to social media were told by the Prime Minister that measures should be announced in a matter of weeks, not months.
We've had the worst situation possible, but we're determined to make a difference for other children.
Our group keeps growing and we don't want it to. We need better policing through the training and the funding so that they recognise these online crimes and know how to investigate them properly.
We also said to the Prime Minister that we want robust action, and that takes courage, and we asked him to have the political courage and the political leadership to stand up to big tech today.
Bereaved parents there outside Downing Street. The government has already launched pilots with hundreds of UK families on social media bans, curfews as well, and app time limits. And tonight, The Telegraph is reporting Sir Keir Starmer is considering going further than the Australian-style ban on children's access to social media, which came into force at the end of last year. Meanwhile, a YouGov poll reveals 53% of Brits believe that social media is very harmful for children. Well, joining me to discuss this are Siobhan McDermott, child digital safety campaigner, and Alexandra Marshall, the online editor for The Spectator Australia. Good evening, you two. Thank you for your company on The Late Show Live. Let's go to Alexandra first, if you're there. How's it working out in Australia, Alexandra, the so-called social media ban? Just explain.
Enforced is a pretty generous way of describing what has taken place. It has been completely ineffectual, to my delight. They believe over 75% of children have absolutely no compliance to this ban, and they don't want it either. Basically, it was targeting things like Twitter explicitly, and then our e-safety commissioner roped a few of the other platforms on when she was criticised for not doing so. But things like Blue Sky, easily one of the most dangerous platforms, that even me, a fan of social media, will say that Blue Sky probably shouldn't be available for children. It ignores the gaming platform chats, which are genuinely dangerous, but it incorporates things like YouTube, which is an educational platform, and news platforms like Twitter and Facebook, where one of the complaints that we've seen is that the kids who are complying, which is a very small percent, are being cut off from the political discussions of the day and genuine breaking news, which has nothing at all to do with schoolyard bullying, because let's remember, almost every case of a child being in danger is happening amongst their peers. It is fundamentally a parental failure and a schooling failure, where we've got schools that have drowned themselves in propaganda, terrible online standards. They push kids towards online learning, and they say, oh no, our problem, we should ban social media. That'll fix the problems. It will not. It has not. It is not being enforced. And our government, who used it as a campaigning mechanism, have totally dropped it. We have no more stories in our press. They're gone.
Okay, interesting to hear that from down under. Siobhan, maybe you'll have a different perspective?
Well, I mean, a couple of things that we're seeing is social media bans are generally ineffective, to the point that was made. You know, Discord and other platforms are typically not included. It hits on mainstream social media. It doesn't really get into the gaming applications, or even worse, some of the hidden applications that parents don't even know exist, or politicians don't know exist. So blanket bans don't work. We see, 86% of kids worldwide get around those bans very easily. They can just go on and ask ChatGPT or somebody else to help them get around it, and it takes them about 30 seconds. So that in and of itself doesn't really work.
Yeah, actually, I don't know how. I support social media just going away and becoming like the dodo and becoming extinct. I don't think it's good for anybody. I think it's pretty much, I think the net benefits. You're shaking your head, Alexandra. I think the net benefits are probably worse than they are good. Alexandra, does any government tackle this? Because the kids will just find a way. They'll find VPNs, they'll find other channels of getting that kind of information, or social media. I think when you ask a government to try and tackle something as vast as the internet, technology and just people are always going to be 2-3 steps ahead.
Well, I think you have to ask a few questions. One, should the government tackle it? And two, why did the government want to tackle it? We are a social species. These kids have taken so many of their opportunities to engage with each other away. They can't go outside anymore because the government has enacted policies that have made the outside world considerably dangerous, more so than when politicians were children. And so people want to talk to each other. So why does the government want to ban kids interacting online? And the main reason is for their own political purposes. It had very little to do with online safety, or they would have approached this era completely differently. They would have said, what are the most dangerous platforms and why? That is not the question that was asked. They asked, what were the most political platforms? Where were kids getting exposed to ideas that contradicted the school curriculum? And the answer was, of course, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Not other platforms where they were being genuinely harassed. I mean, before the internet, kids were being harassed by text messaging. And they know from Australian examples, modern examples, when they took social media away from kids, away from the bullies, the first thing they did was start bullying their same peers via other means. The problems that we are seeing are using social media to facilitate bullying. They are not the cause of it, and banning social media is never the end. But yes, also, I haven't touched on it, but the idea of the tech surveillance is a problem for adults, and it is part of the conversation. But if we're focusing on kids, I think it's actually wrong to try and remove them to the social global conversation, particularly if you want them to vote younger, which the Labor Party claims to want.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's a great point. You're asking them to vote on issues which affect everybody, yet at the same time stifling and neutering the information sources where they will get a vast array of information. It was like during COVID, Siobhan. Who was it? Was it who was the Kiwi leader? Jacinda. Who said? Jacinda Ardern. The government is the only source of truth. You must listen to the government. Any other source is not the truth. It's like, no, I don't think so, love. Like, no, do one.
No, I think part of the problem is that, policymakers aren't actually using the social media that they're trying to regulate. If you look at different parts around the world, you have policymakers in their 80s trying to regulate something that they don't understand, they don't know how to use, they don't know how to regulate, they don't know what people are doing on it. So there's this sort of, age gap, I think, too, that needs to be addressed. And I think the other piece is that, policymakers are, a lot of cases, they're sort of struggling to do something. And a blanket ban is a checkbox that they've done something. They can say, we've moved on, I've checked the box, and now we're doing something in the space, which is going to help kids. And that's not necessarily the case because they're not even aware of the fact of how the kids circumvent the stuff.
Okay, great conversation. Thank you both, Siobhan and Alexandra. Thanks so much for joining the Late Show Live. Take care of yourselves, and hopefully we'll catch up soon, maybe on social media. I'll find you on Instagram. Thank you both. Right, let's get the thoughts of Paul Cox. Paul, they say that social media is distracting for young people.
I get distracted every time I see a photograph of you on Instagram with your top off, Ben. That's what I get distracted by.
I don't do that. There's one. There's only one, but it was gym progress. That was it. It was for no other nefarious reason. Why are you doing it anyway, Paul? Got something to tell us?
Look, sorry. I am just over the moon that I made Angelina laugh. That is the greatest achievement of my comedic career, I think. But one thing I will say...
Well, you're happy. I know exactly what photo you're talking about.
Well, my photo?
Yeah.
Look, I'll be honest with you. If I looked like that, it'd be more than one, Ben. I'd be taking photographs like that, just helping people, directing old ladies, to where the pet shop is. They'd be like, where'd you buy dog food? I'd be taking my top off going, it's over there. Anyway, what I want to say is I do want to say something poignant about social media because, Ben, you're bringing up children. Of course you are. Look at that body. But because it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So outside influence is something that does need to be managed. And social media obviously offers no real use to anyone under about 13 or 14 years old, I would say. However, following Australia is a fool's game. I mean, Australia is probably the most progressive country on the planet right now, and we know from what they're doing that banning stuff simply is not working. The kids who want to access it are using VPNs, and they are using fake ages because there's no real way of checking, or they get someone who looks a bit older to stand in front of the check for them. Kids will find a way. Ben, if you and I had been kids during the social media age, actually I'm 10 years older than you, so no, I don't think you were. I'm 46 or 36, but I had nothing to do with social media until, like everybody else, mid-2000s, something of that.
Nor did I. I didn't.
Late 2000s. No, I could imagine, actually, you probably would have missed it as well. Maybe Angelina did, but I didn't. Sorry, Tim. Maybe Tim did. I don't know. I don't know what. I'm getting myself in all sorts of trouble here. But what I would like to say is there's no use whatsoever. But Australia are not the country to follow, really not.
No, I was the last generation where, when I was about maybe 14, 15, that's when phones started coming around. You get the Nokia 3210s and the Motorola's, and I mean the extent of our excitement on those was Snake. I mean, that was great. But then I'm really happy I missed the social media, the internet age as a child, because I just feel incredibly blessed and privileged to have been able to remember my friends' landline phone numbers off the top of my head. If you go to your mate's house, you knock on the door and say, is Charlie in? And they'd say no, you'd have to go down to the park and try and find them, or go down the beach, you'd spend all day looking for them, then you'd find them and have a kickabout in the streets. It was great, and I realise now how lucky I was. I was the last generation to do that, and I actually feel really sorry for kids these days who are stuck on these damn phones, and adults. I do it as well. I sit there all day scrolling and reading news. I kind of have to for my job, but it's all really sad. It's pathetic. It's vacuous.
Ben, can I just say, we're having this great conversation here, but not a single person has talked about a parent's duty to make sure they are tracking what their children are doing. I mean, folks, citizens of Great Britain, are you not offended that your government thinks that they are better at handling your children than you are?
No.
Shouldn't you be empowered? Shouldn't you feel like that is your responsibility? They're your parameters to do this. Where is this uprising in the country? Shame on the UK government for stepping in, but then again, shame on the citizens for allowing them to do this. And so I really do think it's the parents' role to get in here. And we
Tim,
do not
for
need
Prime Minister,
another law.
Tim, change your nationality. Come over the pond, mate. We need you in charge.
There's too many shirtless pictures. I could never do it. Too many online. Sorry.
Yeah. Paul would love it. Paul loves a topless bloke. Right, let's remind ourselves what Keir Starmer said about a social media ban. Take a look.
Really clear. The question now is not whether we do something. We are going to act. I'm absolutely clear that this needs to be something where there's a game changer. So we will be acting. The question is only what we do, and that will be coming very quickly because we took powers earlier this year to make sure we can act very, very quickly.
Yeah, I have to say, Angelina, this isn't about protecting kids. It's about power. It's about censorship. And as Tim rightly said, nobody mentioned it before, Tim, and props to Tim. It's about the parents. Don't let your kids sit there with tablets after school for hours on end. If they are on social media, just make sure you know what they're doing. Too many parents use these as babysitters these days, or distractions, so they can just crack on doing their own thing as adults.
I mean, look, if social media is the problem and it's causing mass depression, anxiety, attention deficits in children, then I think it all of a sudden shifts from parents' responsibility into a public health issue for the government, right? So if you look at it and approach it from public health, just because kids will smoke cigarettes anyway, should we not ban cigarettes? Just because kids will vape anyway, should we not do that? Just because kids will drink alcohol, should we not put restrictions on that, right? So this social media clearly is an issue. It's been proven to link to depression, higher rates of anxiety. It's shown to hinder reading comprehension skills, and it also has leads to extremism, as we talk on this show so much about.
Commies everywhere.
Yep, the extremists and how the internet is radicalizing. And I've said this before, I would take it even one step further to start to look at video games and who kids are talking to and communicating.
Okay.
Angelina, you sound a lot like Dr. Anthony Fauci and his whole lot during COVID when he said, oh, there's so much bad out there, we can't possibly. And then they start actually censoring truth online. And so that's the problem when you involve government in these things, is that they have the political agenda. They want to stay elected. They want to keep power.
But I mean, children
and that is what you do when you give your power to be a parent over to the federal government.
I disagree,
to any
because children can't vote anyway. And I think at the very least, you could be teaching about this issue in health courses, right? You take health courses that teach you about the problems of alcohol, the problems about cigarettes. I think this is another way that it can also be talked about in school. Yeah, but I'm talking about how to prevent kids from using social media.
What about video games? So this is interesting you said that. Just last point in this conversation. I today ordered my son, who's 6, loves Formula 1. He karts a lot. He wants to be a Formula 1 driver. I was like, oh, great. Most expensive career in the history of the planet. Anyway, he wants to be an F1 driver. Very slim chance, but I'll give it a crack. He go-karts a lot, as I said. But he also sim races a lot. He races on sims, e-racing, because actually it's very good for real-life racing. Anyway, today I ordered him from America to be delivered to our house in the UK, his first sim setup. So he'll be able to, in his bedroom, at our home in the UK, turn on my PC, well his PC now, he's nicked it, and sim race. And race against people online sim racing. He's 6 years old. he's not going to be able to speak to people. But Angelina, in terms of him just playing a game without speaking to people, do you think that's okay?
I mean, again, I don't know how the particulars work with video games in terms of interacting with strangers. I know that my little sister, was on Club Penguin when that was first becoming popular. It's an app, a gaming app that was a younger generation gaming app when it was first starting to come out popular. And I know that an older man reached out to her and started conversations there. So again, if your son is not able to communicate with other people, that's fine, I think. But look at the shooting at the mosque in San Diego. Again, these two extremists, these teenagers.
F1 racing?
Well, I'm telling you, they met on a video gaming platform. So I don't, again, that one in particular, if you're not talking to a stranger, is fine. But there are a lot of video gaming platforms that allow minors to talk to strangers.
Yeah, and government would love to take more power.
That and make sure that's something that's not helping?
There are plenty of laws in place, Angelina. There are plenty of laws in place to enforce pedos and bad actors online, offline, anywhere. There are plenty of laws. Why would you see more of your freedom of speech, more of your freedom of affiliation and association to a large government body who has a bad history of shadowing one and promoting the other? This is dangerous.
I mean, like right now, it's not applied to video games, but we do have social media age restrictions in America. In some states, as low as the age of 13, and in other states, 16. So it's already something that exists in America.
Okay. Well, I'd hope, Paul, if my son fails to set a fastest lap round Spa, that he won't go on to commit some sort of atrocity. I suggest it's probably more down to the parents who of those people who turn to extremists and video games.
I've been in this situation. My daughter's not an extremist, but I've been in this situation. She's 16 now. She's not watching, so I can afford to embarrass her slightly. But when she, 10 years ago, not 10 years ago, she'd only been 6. I'm trying to think of the age she would have been, maybe 11 or 12, when she first started interacting with things like Roblox, and Fortnite and things of that nature. These are community-based games. And I had to, for a little while, keep an eye. I became incredibly suspicious. So I'd always be popping in and checking on her. She was not pleased by this. But I think you have to make yourself unpopular with your children. Angelina makes some good points there. I think what she was saying about her little sister is real. You were talking earlier about knocking on the door, Ben, trying to find your mate and then going down to the park. The biggest threat to you then was some sort of Wally pulling up in a van asking if you want to see his puppies in the back of the van. Now these people, they're online, so there is a story to be told there. However, going back to Tim's point, I don't think the government need to be doing that. It only takes a parent to keep an eye on that, and you can make it very safe. You can lock it down so that they can only talk with people that they know, or they can never talk with anybody else, and they can still play the game. So as long as you're engaged with them, and you're not leaving them alone for 4 hours at a time just to play the game, then you can manage it, and you don't need Keir Starmer to do so.
Oh, goodness me, Keir Starmer. Yeah, interesting. Great conversation, guys. Thank you. Appreciate the breadth of debate. Arthur said, Ben, you need to get him into karting. Real ones, not just Sims. He does, Arthur. He karts a lot. He karts all over the shop. He's very good. He's actually, I was going to say he's quicker than me. He's not quite yet, but he probably will be soon. Little so-and-so. Right, GBNews.com/your say. Let's take a quick look at some of the other main news stories here in America. J.D. Vance, the Vice President, has praised Pope Leo for warning of the possible dangers of AI. In a theological document released at the weekend, Leo said we shouldn't resist the advance of technology, but should use it responsibly. The Vice President called the Pope's words profound and said the principles of morality never change. Elsewhere, the Trump administration has suggested that all federal employees should have to sign non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, in an attempt to tackle leaks. It comes after several newspapers received details of the US raid on Venezuela in January, which the government says put military lives at risk. And Britain's still basking in record-breaking sunshine. Lucky you, but the southern states of the United States have been hit by heavy storms. Around 15 million people from Louisiana to Georgia have been issued with flood alerts, and several states have braced for more extreme rainfall. Still ahead, though, on The Late Show Live tonight. At least one person's been confirmed dead after a chemical tank imploded at a packaging plant in Washington state on the West Coast. It comes after a similar incident in California. Devastating pictures, extraordinary. I'll speak to an expert in a moment, but first, let's get a very quick look at your weather, and I understand it's still going to be balmy.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure still holding on for most of us today. Plenty of sunny spells, the risk of a few thundery showers and a little cooler for most of us. Those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern parts of England too. A bit of a northeasterly breeze here through the day, but the clouds should lift and break. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, but we could see some clouds bubbling up into the afternoon. The risk of some showers across parts of Wales, the West Midlands in particular. In the southwest, we'll see temperatures reaching the low 30s, but much cooler towards the north and east, around 14 to 15 Celsius along some eastern coast, so chillier compared to recent days. Into this evening time, the risk of further showers, but if we zoom into Scotland, a fine end to the day here. Plenty of sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens. Still rather cloudy though across towards Edinburgh, down towards the borders, but there'll be some glimmers of sunshine. Similar across Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine to end the day. And the risk of showers across Wales into the Midlands. Some of these are thundery at times, but lots of places dry and still very warm in that evening sunshine with temperatures in the mid to high 20s in places. Showers will feed north and eastwards as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight across England and Wales. Some heavy downpours developing, the odd rumble of thunder possible. Elsewhere, generally dry, particularly across parts of Scotland, and temperatures here in the countryside will dip into single figures. But for most, another warm night, not quite as warm as recent nights, but staying in double figures. Thursday is a bit more of a mixed day, some low cloud across parts of Wales and southwest England around the coast, showers pushing northwards, but plenty of sunshine in between. The sunshine quite abundant across parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland for a time before some cloud moves in here. Later on in the day, some high cloud across England and Wales later, the risk of a few showers. Temperatures once again the high 20s to low 30s towards the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
At least one person's been confirmed dead after a chemical tank imploded at a packaging plant in Washington state. It happened at the Nippon Dynaway factory in Longview. The tank that ruptured, picture on your screen now, contained white liquor, a highly corrosive chemical used to make paper. According to the local fire department, it can hold up to 300,000 litres of the chemical and was 60% full at the time of the incident. The fire department battalion chief Mike Gurish gave a press conference a short time ago.
There were multiple critical injuries, and patients were transported to hospitals in Longview and throughout the Vancouver-Portland area. We can also confirm there were fatalities related to the incident. At this time, there are also individuals who remain unaccounted for as crews recover and continue the recovery and accountability operations.
Fire Chief Mike Gorsuch there. There's no ongoing threats at the moment, but people have been told to avoid the area. With me now is Principal Toxicologist and Certified Industrial Hygienist Alex Lebeau. Alex, great to see you. We saw one of these in California, didn't we, over the past couple of days? Is it similar? And if so, isn't that a bit sort of uncanny?
There are some similarities. It involves a similar tanking structure, and you know, these things sometimes kind of happen, especially coming in the news. But there are some, I'll say, similarities from the potential danger that it presented to the individuals either working there or in the community.
Okay. Unfortunately, at least one person's been confirmed dead after the explosion. The white liquor used to make paper, how dangerous would it be to be in the vicinity of that blast? I mean, just kind of without being too graphic, is it the liquor that's corrosive to humans, or is it the blast itself that can prove fatal?
Well, I would say the material that's in there is a process that's used to, as you alluded to earlier, work with pulp and paper manufacturing, something called the craft process. And that's the part that starts the digestion of wood material to make paper. And that material can be corrosive, can be damaging to the skin, but this process is done under high temperature and high pressure. So likely the result was, again, I don't know many details. I've seen the information that you have as well as press, in addition to the news conference you saw. But it's likely the concussive force of that pressure being released probably all at once that caused the majority of the problems in this scenario.
Okay, and I don't know if you have sort of in the UK we have quite controversially the health and safety inspector. So after any workplace incidents, any deaths or accidents or near misses, the health and safety inspector, an officer, will go around and give a score or a license to an establishment or an employer. Do you have the same thing here?
We would, and yeah, usually if there's a fatality involved in a workplace scenario, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, would come in and do an investigative scenario and an investigation to identify what the cause was and corrective actions for improving things in the future.
Okay. Alex, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on GB News and The Late Show Live. That's Alex LeBeau, Principal Toxicologist and Certified Industrial Hygienist. Thanks, Alex. Tim, any thoughts on this? Pretty sad, but also, like I said, two similar incidents, one in California a few days ago and now this.
Well, I think that this is exactly what the One Big Beautiful Bill was going to address, was the aging infrastructure of our manufacturing facilities, of our plants. You know, you're able now, Ben, through the One Big Beautiful Bill to take full expensing on investments in new plants and new facilities and new capital purchases, new research and development. And I think that any sort of aging infrastructure, you're going to find more and more of these happening, and I think that this is an example of that, and I think that's a good thing, and so a reason why our economy is actually growing in spite of the high oil prices, because people are taking advantage of retooling these factories.
Dare I say it, Tim and Angelina, is this of course, this one was in Washington State, on the West Coast, particularly sort of far left in places, Oregon, Seattle, Democrat state. California, Democrat state. The one in California 3 days ago, a highly volatile substance used to make plastic, spreading for miles and miles, 16,000 people still unable to return to their homes. Is this a Democrat thing?
100%. I mean, in California, absolutely it is. They haven't met a regulation they don't want to fall in love with, marry, and have children with. They just love regulation in California. So government actually isn't the help, and it isn't the fix and the be-all to everything, Ben.
Okay. Angelina?
I mean, it's definitely not a left or right issue. It's just an issue that exists in general. Like, look at it from a common sense approach, right? So the California, like, they have a lot of different aging infrastructures. You know, they've had the issues with the fires. That comes from Pepco not building. They're using the cables, which are triggering big wildfires, right? And then you have other dangers like nuclear power plants built on, fault lines. You have all these other. And some of these are private corporations. Also, if you look at some of the AI data centers in red states, they're turning the water, they're polluting the air, and they're turning the water. Yeah, they're turning the water brown.
So it's absolutely fake. They are not doing that.
But they are. So I mean, like, it's not a left or right issue. It's an issue that exists, and it's more about how are we going to handle the fallout from these.
Just quickly on the data centers. I was at a karaoke bar the other night here in DC, and some guy was absolutely sozzled outside. And he said hello to me. It turns out he owns loads of data centers in Virginia. And I said, can I come down with a camera and do a piece? They're quite controversial. He said, yeah, sure, we're opening a new one in a couple of weeks. Loads of congressmen are coming down. It's like a ribbon cutting ceremony. So I'm going down to look at this data center, which are highly controversial. Tim, you say they're what, you suggested they're not problematic?
I'm saying they are not problematic to the point where we need to stop building them, and we need to get in the way of literally furthering the AI development in this nation. You're getting people and groups who are rallying against the greatest wealth multiplier, the greatest wealth creator that we have seen in multiple generations. And we're saying we need to stop this. And that is absolutely not the case. It is not. Any pollution that it brings it pales in comparison to the pollution that any other manufacturing facility would bring into it. So data centers are actually not a contributor to the environmental waste, and it actually lowers energy prices, it lowers water prices.
People are saying that every time you ask, say, Grok or Claude or ChatGPT a question for a recipe or something for dinner, you're using up so-and-so amount of water and polluting people.
Well, right here, this is a data center. It's not just AI. It's your phone that you use. These data centers are storing all of that stuff in there. So it is absolutely crucial that we not only have these data centers if we want to continue the life that we're living right now, but it's crucial that we, of course, stay environmentally friendly, but it's also important that we don't buy the left-wing Marxist narrative being funded by George Soros saying that we need to stop building these data centers.
I mean, I don't think that we're saying we're not going to build them. I think we're going into impoverished communities that are looking for different ways to create revenue, and by that, governments are exploiting these impoverished communities. And they're creating environments. Would you move to? Would you move your family?
Angelina, do you know what the wealthiest county in the entire country is?
Marin County.
Fairfax. No, exactly.
Wait, is that right?
Loudoun County is in the top 5 as well. Loudoun County is the largest concentrations of data centers in this entire country, maybe even the world.
Isn't that
it is
because of
Data
tax
Center
breaks?
Alley. It's because they want them. It's because they went after them and they have them. And it's also because it's the federal government here and we have a lot of defense. And so it's a great place to have the data centers. But you know what's happening is property taxes are the lowest that they've ever been in Loudoun County since the data centers have come in. Electricity prices are the lowest they've ever been since data centers started coming in. Why? Because they are the ones carrying the lot of it. They are the ones paying the way for it. And in this process of it, creating jobs that are well paying for everybody.
So
this is not an impoverished thing. That is an absolute, that's the Marxist slop that we're hearing.
Tim, so would you move to Fairfax County with your family?
Yeah, we live there. Yeah, we live there.
You live there now?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. That's me told. That's you
But
told as well.
Loudon,
I wouldn't send it to the public
isn't
schools, though.
necessarily Fairfax, though. It's a bit further out, and there's a lot more land in Loudoun County.
It's Loudoun County.
Yeah, Loudoun County is a lot more
it's
rural,
more
so it's
conservative.
a bit different. It is a bit ways out, and
It's
so
one
I'm
of the top
saying,
5 wealthiest counties in the entire country.
Okay, I think we've got
It's not impoverished, taking advantage of impoverished communities. That's absolute Marxist pap from Bernie Sanders, AOC, and George Soros.
It's definitely not true. Have you been to Memphis? Have you seen it?
I've been to Memphis many times. Yes, I have.
AOC trains at my gym, but that's another conversation. She's actually she's very nice. I don't think she knows what I do yet, but she says hello and smiles. I think once she probably discovers who I am and what I think about her politics, she won't be so friendly. Paul Cox, quick question. How many data centres do we have in the UK? Are you aware? Sorry to put that.
No, it's okay, mate. I've had a look, and it is absolutely loads. There's tons. It's somewhere between loads and tons. I know a little bit about this stuff, actually. I don't know how many there are, sadly. It's probably grown a lot since the last time I had anything to do with data centres, which was 2010. But Tim's right. You turn off every data centre in the UK and the US, you will solve every problem and create every problem too. We are entirely reliant on data centres now. Our whole lives are backed up and run by data centres because we know what it's like. Remember, if X goes down or something goes down on your phone, the first thing you're doing is asking Google, has such and such gone down? Like you're asking if that person's still alive. Everybody feels that need to be connected. And a lot of people use social media and all those things that use data centres to feel that connection with the rest of the world. So we've created a beast now, and it doesn't. It is mad. It's absolutely mad, and it does absorb a tremendous amount of energy. I'm not sure that we've, as humans, ever created anything that generates and consumes more energy than data centres do. And by the way, we're just at the infancy, aren't we?
Yeah, Jason said on your side, data centres are the end of freedom. These tyrants will enslave us. And I can tell you the most data centres in the UK, apparently there's hundreds, mostly in Slough, Hayes, Docklands, Reading, Stockley Park, Enfield, about 50 in Greater Manchester, 20 odd in Birmingham. There's a few in Cardiff and Newport and some in Leeds as well. Anyway, I'm going to be meeting...
By the way, we need one data centre every single week in this country to keep up with the demand that we have through, like you said, the cell phones, through using AI, ChatGPT, all of that stuff. So it absolutely is a necessity if we're going to continue down this road.
Okay. Right, let's move on. really interesting, well, quite a funny clip. It shows how brave he is, I think. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the nephew of JFK, right, and son of Bobby Kennedy. He's removed a pair of snakes. They're called black racers from Dr. Oz's patio. Take a look.
So, what are they? Well, they're having sex, so what were they? They're moccasins.
Moccasins? What's the difference?
They're not moccasins.
Huh?
They're not moccasins.
Oh. Okay.
Are they biting? Yeah.
Oh, he's a lot braver than I am. That Bobby Kennedy's wife there was saying, "Bobby, what are you doing? Put them down." They were biting him. He was saying, "Oh, they're biting me." And yeah, he's a tough guy. He's over 70, isn't he?
Why did he keep going to the other hand? I mean, he was fine in the one hand, and then he tried to keep switching them. It's almost like he wanted to be bit.
They're black racer snakes. Have you heard of them?
No, I don't like snakes.
Have you heard of black racer snakes?
No, I thought they were two politicians, you know.
Oh.
I was waiting for Paul to make that joke.
Apparently, Paul, they are black racers, non-venomous and generally harmless if left alone. But that said, I've seen some astonishing pictures of adders in this hot weather you've been having back home, Paul. Have you come across any adders?
I have in my time. I'm still laughing at Angelina's joke. Lovely work. I have. Adders aren't massively. They're not massively big. They're about that big, which probably means nothing. But on average, you know, maybe a foot long. They can get bigger. There are probably our only poisonous snake in the UK, and a bite from them might send you to A&E, but it's not gonna end your life, fortunately. But as soon as I saw that, I got a flashback. This is God's honest truth. 1985. My wallpaper was Mr. Men. I was in bed and I dreamt there was a snake in my bed. I don't even know if I'd encountered a snake before that. I was 5 years old and I have been scared of snakes ever since. The idea of picking up those two snakes is absolutely terrifying to me. And the fact he let them bite him is going, oh yeah. It's a bit Steve Irwin, wasn't he? Do you remember Steve Irwin? God bless him. Gone now, doing stuff just like that, unfortunately. But to me, that's a man's man, Ben. Or someone who's mentally ill. I'll leave it up to you.
No, Bobby Kennedy's great. He is. Do you remember that clip from a few months ago where he went to Reagan Airport and was just doing pull-ups in the airport terminal? How old is he? He's about, was he 74 or something? Bobby Kennedy Jr. age. And compare him as well. What MAGA like to do, Angelina, is compare him to the old health secretary under Biden. I can't remember her name, Tim. Do you?
Rachel something or other. His or her name. Yeah.
So she was. Yeah. I mean, she's clinically obese. Was she trans as well?
Yeah, she's trans. Yeah.
Trans, clinically obese, health secretary.
Rachel Levine.
Rachel Levine, just leading the nation's health policy, and compared to Bobby Kennedy, who's 72, picks up snakes, doesn't care, doing pull-ups in Reagan Airport. Angelina?
I mean, look, he's a bit off, definitely. We could go into how he feels about different, vaccines, for example. Like he's been, you can always talk about that. He's always been a huge denier of that. So whether or not he makes right choices that are healthy for everyone, it doesn't necessarily apply as a one fit all. I would go that he's a bit more crazy than understanding of your well-being. I mean, his solution to weight loss in America is making the GPL-1 more affordable, not looking at other ways to implement
that's
healthier
totally
eating.
False. That is absolutely false. His entire campaign is physical fitness and eating the right things. It is not about GLP-1. That is one very, very effective solution to actually solving an obesity crisis that is here in the United States of America that exercise and diet can't fix. So that is one element of it. The other one is that he's having fun. He's a falconer. The guy's an outdoors person. This is who he is. And I think it's wonderful for a politician to show who they are instead of constantly buttoning the tight button here and tightening the tie. So kudos to RFK Jr. for showing us that.
How many pull-ups can you do, Tim?
I probably like 1.5 real pull-ups. If it's good. If my shirt's off, I can do at least 10.
Gives you that extra boost. Yeah. Angelina, can you do any pull-ups?
Yes, I can. I can do 5.
Go on, Ben.
Really good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Probably more than me, actually. Paul?
I knew you were going to
Dare
ask
I
me.
ask?
I think the other day I pulled a muscle, put it in my socks on. I managed to get the first one on okay, but the second one really knackered me out and I had to go back to bed and start again 3 hours later. So I'm not doing many pull-ups. And yeah, the previous health secretary, by the way, Rachel what's-her-face, it's like me being the Secretary of State for eating vegetables. It was absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. JFK, has anyone noticed this, by the way? I think Donald Trump is fitter and healthier under JFK.
You mean Bobby Kennedy Jr.? Bobby Jr. JFK.
Sorry, not under JFK. We don't have a Ouija board.
All right, we've got to go. Right, thank you, Paul. Hang tight. More fun to come on The Late Show Live in the next hour or so, including this.
In addition to flying 2 NASA science payloads, SCALPs, a lunar retro-reflector array, the mission objective is to demonstrate critical capabilities that reduce risk for the human landing system missions.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure still holding on for most of us today. Plenty of sunny spells, the risk of a few thundery showers and a little cooler for most of us. Those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern parts of England too. A bit of a northeasterly breeze here through the day, but the clouds should lift and break. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, but we could see some clouds bubbling up into the afternoon. The risk of some showers across parts of Wales, the West Midlands in particular. In the southwest, we'll see temperatures reaching the low 30s, but much cooler towards the north and east, around 14 to 15 Celsius along some eastern coast, so chillier compared to recent days. Into this evening time, the risk of further showers, but if we zoom into Scotland, a fine end to the day here. Plenty of sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens. Still rather cloudy though across towards Edinburgh, down towards the borders, but there'll be some glimmers of sunshine. Similar across Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine to end the day. And the risk of showers across Wales into the Midlands. Some of these are thundery at times, but lots of places dry and still very warm in that evening sunshine with temperatures in the mid to high 20s in places. Showers will feed north and eastwards as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight across England and Wales. Some heavy downpours developing, the odd rumble of thunder possible. Elsewhere, generally dry, particularly across parts of Scotland, and temperatures here in the countryside will dip into single figures. But for most, another warm night, not quite as warm as recent nights, but staying in double figures. Thursday is a bit more of a mixed day, some low cloud across parts of Wales and southwest England around the coast, showers pushing northwards, but plenty of sunshine in between. The sunshine quite abundant across parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland for a time before some cloud moves in here. Later on in the day, some high cloud across England and Wales later, the risk of a few showers. Temperatures once again the high 20s to low 30s towards the south.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bo, they are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good morning. Live from Washington, D.C. This is GB News with the stories shaping Britain and America.
This is going to blow every other tournament you did. You're going to say how terrible a job you did in the past, because this is so much better, Gianni.
The FBI has said it will ramp up efforts to fight human trafficking during the World Cup. It's a shocking admission, really. That was the last thing I'd associate the tournament with.
Just care that he was my doctor and he said I'm the healthiest human being he's ever. Ronnie, am I healthier than these guys back here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Well, President Trump did what I did last week. He's just had a major health check. I'll reveal how it went, but I'm sure you can probably guess.
In addition to flying 2 NASA science payloads, Scalps, a lunar retroreflector array, the mission objective is to demonstrate critical capabilities that reduce risk for the human landing system missions.
And yes, I love this. NASA has revealed a bold plan to build a permanent base near the lunar South Pole, aiming for humans to live on the moon long term by around 2032. There's hope for us yet. I'm Ben Leo, and this is The Late Show Live. Welcome to The Late Show Live. Joining me in DC this evening, Tim Dosher and Angelina McCarthy, and in London, Paul Cox, GB News superstar and comedian. Thank you, Paul. We're set for another hour of fun and frolics. Right. What's funny about that?
It's Cockney rhyming slang.
Thinking about me and Paul frolicking around with our shirts off, maybe. I don't know.
Tim, stop it, will you? Stop it. You'll send all those ladies wild.
Right, there we go. I told you it was going to be fun. OK, thanks, Paul. Just before we get to our main story of the hour, just some breaking news to bring you. US President Donald Trump has appointed former US Attorney General Pam Bondi to a White House advisory committee focused on artificial intelligence. That's according to Axios. The White House did not immediately respond when reached for comment. Very quick comment from you, Tim and Angelina, on that. Pam Bondi acts as Attorney General, now on the White House advisory committee focused on AI. Is that kind of like a, I don't know, some sort of job to keep around?
I think that the stock market has never been higher. I think that that's driven by the Magnificent Seven, mostly driven by AI investment. And I think that that's President Trump understanding that not only do we need to allow our companies to innovate and continue to drive that innovation forward, but I also think it's to stand up and make sure that we are looking at the things. Angelina was right. We do need to make sure that we're doing it in a responsible way. We absolutely do need to do that. So I think that the advisory council is right, but I do think that the goal is set, and that is to keep the gains coming. And most importantly, sorry to keep going, beat China. That is so important.
Yeah, and it's also China, not just in AI, but in the space race as well. The story we're going to cover very soon in this hour is the US racing against China to put a base on the moon and humans back on the moon. I guess Pam Bondi, former AG, now on this AI committee, she will be maybe combating people like you, Angelina, who are against data centres and spreading what they would call maybe mistruths.
Look, I'm not necessarily against data centers. I'm just pointing out the problems with data centers. Pam Bondi in this move, yeah, I mean, it is questionable. Look, Donald Trump just removed her from the DOJ, a head position. But Pam Bondi and Donald Trump really have, like, I want to say like a kitten-like relationship, or maybe like almost like a puppy dog. She really, really does admire Trump, and she will listen and obey to whatever he says. And we all know that what Trump values most is loyalty. So it makes sense moving Pam Bondi into a position where she may have more direct communication with Trump and work with him on a daily basis.
You know, it's funny, the funny thing about Pam Bondi, she's from the state of Florida, which of course is a very, very red Republican state. However, Governor Ron DeSantis has actually said we aren't going to build data centers in Florida.
They are.
So they are not.
Oh, okay.
Which is absolutely incredible, considering that they are one of the wealthiest, largest growing states, fastest growing states in the country. They're not going to be taking part of this, and it's just amazing that Pam Bondi from Florida, former Attorney General, will be heading this council here in D.C.
Yeah, interesting. Is that because Florida is quite hot generally?
Yeah, I mean,
it's not a great place for a data center.
Yeah, and you got to think of the demographics there. You know, nobody wants to build a data center in Florida, and who's there exactly?
Leave the boomers alone.
They want the data centers, just not in their own backyard.
No, NIMBYs we call them. NIMBY, NIMBYs.
Yeah.
Okay, great stuff. Pam Bondi as well. I think she's great. Great character, hard worker. And can you believe she's 60? She looks fantastic. She looks about 40.
I did not know that.
Right. Anyway, me with the important contributions to the journalistic debate. Anyway, let's move on to our main news this evening. The FBI says it's working around the clock to disrupt global sex and human trafficking networks ahead of the FIFA World Cup. Director Kash Patel said operations and 91 joint task forces have led to record results. 2,900 traffickers and predators arrested and 7,000 children rescued. That's insane. So 2,900 traffickers and predators arrested and 7,000 children rescued in the build-up to the World Cup. Authorities urge the public to stay alert and report suspicious activity. I'm joined now by the former FBI agent Greg Rogers. Greg, good morning. Welcome to The Late Show Live again.
Thank you.
I'm pretty shocked at these figures. Are these figures just in the build-up to the Football World Cup here in the United States? 7,000 children rescued. What is the definition of a child rescued? Can you just try and elaborate, please?
Yeah, that's a child that's taken out of not just a human trafficking situation, but also a child pornography situation where they may be being exploited. So our task forces, the task forces that the director is talking about, are federal, state, and local agencies in every single FBI office. And those are the numbers. Tragically, it's been a very good year, but those aren't unusual numbers. These types of cases are sadly prevalent in every state in the United States.
It's kind of a bit soul-destroying seeing those numbers on the screen. 7,000 children rescued. That must mean there are, I don't know, tens of thousands more currently being trafficked and abused all across the United States. I mean, it's a hellish thought.
No, it is. It's terrible. And our agents that work these cases are, working diligently, and these task forces are putting up numbers like we've never seen before. That's been going on for years, but I worked these cases for about 15 years of my career, and I used to present at schools, and I would tell people, people would be asking about, if their kids should be online and everything. And I would be telling them, it'd be 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And I'd be like, look, I'm going to get online right now, and I can guarantee you within 5 minutes, some predator is going to be hitting on me, because I'd be on as like a 13 or 14-year-old boy or girl. And I would say within minutes, somebody's going to be hitting on me. And these parents wouldn't believe it. So I just get online and start doing my thing. And 99% of the time, it's that prevalent, it's that obvious, and parents need to be very, very cautious about the websites and the apps that their kids are using.
A couple more questions for you, Greg. Maybe you can't answer this one, but first of all, it seems like, I don't mean to trivialise this by how I asked you this question and dictate myself, but there seems to be paedophiles everywhere. There's just thousands of them, just predators everywhere. You've explained yourself how easy it is to go online and within minutes you'll be approached by a predator. Were these people around before the internet, or has the internet spawned a higher volume of paedophiles?
No, it's interesting. I teach a course at a local university, and I tell my students that prior to the internet, and I'm a big fan of the internet, but one of the downsides has been it's been the biggest enabler of child sex predators that ever happened. I mean, prior to the internet, you would have to if you were into child pornography, you would have to order basically magazines, largely from Eastern Europe, when there was still a Soviet Union, and it was very dangerous because the Postal Inspector Service was looking for people with P.O. boxes that got a lot of magazines from Yugoslavia, and but that's how you got access to child pornography. It was very difficult, and you didn't go into a local pub and start talking to other people about kiddie porn. I mean, so it was a very insular, sort of very difficult, horrible habit to have. Post-internet, now there's all these, encrypted chat rooms you can go to and talk to millions of people all over the world who are just like you. So it was sort of enabling. It made these people think, oh gosh, there's, millions of people like me, and they all trade kiddie porn. They talk to each other. So that's one real downside to the internet, and it's a dangerous place for children. Parents need to be spending a whole lot of time monitoring where their kids are.
Mate, these sick SOBs, they make me sick. I can feel myself. I can feel vomit coming up from my stomach. Yeah. Anyway, Greg,
no argument here.
The World Cup. Why would the World Cup be a hotspot for human trafficking? What is the link? Because again, from my place of ignorance, I just see a football tournament, a soccer tournament, as you guys would call it. Why? What's going on here?
I don't mean to sound cynical, but there's really no link. This was just Director Patel taking the opportunity to sort of a PR stunt to talk about the numbers, and the Bureau's real response at the World Cup is going to be domestic terrorism and counterterrorism squads, SWAT teams trying to provide security to stop some sort of international or domestic terrorism event. I think this was just the director's opportunity to put those numbers out there and let people know how horrible. Yeah, how horrible this is.
Well, the FBI should watch out for those England fans. We're infamous, Greg. We like a drink. We like getting boozy.
I never noticed. I covered a lot of sporting events as a SWAT team member, and I never noticed a huge uptick in human trafficking or child pornography at Super Bowls or things like that. And this is, of course, first time we've had the World Cup here, but I don't think we're going to see a huge uptick in these already horrendous numbers based on a sporting event.
Great stuff. Greg, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on. As always, Greg Rogers, former FBI agent. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you. Tim, I was listening to Greg there. I was literally starting to feel sick in my stomach. I don't understand it. I don't understand how you could ever want to do that to a child. To sexualize a child. It's just I can't comprehend it.
Yeah, and there's an appetite of pure evil that would drive something like that. And as a new parent of 2 weeks now, my little girl, I have a different perspective on this than I did, and you see this growing desire to shine a spotlight on these people here in the United States of America. A couple of years ago, this movie Sound of Freedom, which was largely panned by the left as sort of a conspiracy movie, it generated $250 million, and it was all about human trafficking. It was all shining a light on child predators, international human trafficking. It's a fantastic reminder that this is something people are passionate about. The same pit in your stomach that you have, they have as well. And so I think it's a really, really good thing. And I'm exactly sure how the World Cup fits into this. I haven't quite figured that part out yet.
Well, Greg said it doesn't really.
Exactly. But I think that shining a spotlight on it is something absolutely necessary, because it is absolute evil, and sometimes the best cure for evil is spotlight.
Oh, 7,000 children rescued, Angelina. I mean, goodness me.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely awful. A lot of people have been saying, you know, Kash Patel's comments about sex trafficking and preventing it. A lot of people on the internet are saying that, criticizing the administration overall, being like the Epstein files still, you know, they haven't really gone after anyone there, and there's a lot of hypocrisy in them doing this huge campaign to stop human trafficking when they're not holding human traffickers here in America accountable. Again, that's just a criticism coming online. Of course, this is disgusting. It brings me back actually to, you just never know who's involved in this type of stuff. And I had someone who was a close family friend of our family's, who was very involved in the church, a very well-respected person in my community growing up, and it came out that he was watching kiddie porn, and that was absolutely devastating to the community, to everybody who knew him. This man used to take me to swim practices, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. It's just, you never know. Like, all of a sudden, someone in your close circle who you thought was the most respected, upstanding person now is, you know, involved in that type of stuff. And I think it's more prominent than we realize, because obviously no one's just advertising that they're dealing with these issues.
Well, Paul Cox, great example. I let rip at him a few nights ago. I think the clip's gone viral. Hugh Edwards, who the man, the most loved newsreader in the UK, most respected BBC man, you know, in the game for decades, broke the death of the news of the Queen's death. Turns out he's a grubby little paedophile, Paul.
That what I said you virtually had to apologise for, or give some, where's that fly come from, and gives us Hugh Edwards, just giving me that sort of, you had to give some balance, and you know, it's very difficult. I get very emotive about this. First of all, before I talk about this, Tim, huge congratulations, mate. That's fantastic news. I hope your other half's well, and I hope your little girl's well as well. That's brilliant news, mate. Best job on the planet. Anyway, what I would like, if someone said to me they would pay my mortgage and feed me for a year and I couldn't go to jail, I'd like a year hunting these people, and I would take every pleasure in it, Ben.
Have you seen those social media videos where people are actually actively out there being vigilantes, so to speak, and hunting down, honey fishing pedophiles? They film it, and then they blast them and make them call their authorities, or make them call their significant other to confess.
The police don't like that, because it puts. I enjoy watching those clips, but the police in the UK, Paul, I think they're not too fond of these vigilante groups.
They think it's interfering with their police work.
People have killed themselves. There's one example of someone taking their own life after falsely being accused of something that the vigilantes stitched them up for.
Yes, and I think, you know, you can agree with that, OK? That's a terrible example, obviously. However, what we'd like to see more of is more convictions and less paedophiles in our authority. There's paedophiles throughout our institutions, not just on this side of the pond, and on your side of the pond as well, guys. And this is why we get disgusted, because often when it's found, they're protected in some way. Because people are afraid to expose them, because it might expose other people, and we have a massive global issue with this problem, and we should not legitimise it at all, ever. I've seen people try, particularly, I don't mean this is not political, by the way, but I've seen very left-leaning people who I'm sure mean well, try to make excuses for these people and make out like it's some sort of sexuality preference. It's not. It's disgusting, and it has no place in humanity.
Yeah, they call it. They go around saying it's like, well, look at minor attractive person. Kind of
no such thing.
I'm sick of this. I don't want to talk about these absolute degenerates anymore. I'm sick of it. We're going to move on. Thank you, Paul. Right, President Trump has today undergone his regular physical at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Centre. In a post on Truth Social, he said, "Just finished my 6-month physical at Walter Reed. Everything checked out perfectly." Thank you to the great doctors and staff. Heading back to the White House now, President Donald J. Trump. Well, earlier this year, Trump's doctor has claimed he was the healthiest human being.
That he was my doctor and he said I'm the healthiest human being. He said, Ronnie, am I healthier than these guys back here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
What, the healthiest human being ever? I mean, I'd probably take a punt. I'm healthier than Trump. But anyway, with me now, look, he's in good shape. He's 80. He was the oldest ever president to be sworn in. He loves McDonald's and fries and Diet Coke, so he's not doing too badly. Health, wellness, fitness and exercise subject matter expert. That's a funny title. Health expert. Dominic Angelino is with me now. Dominic, great to see you. What do you make of it? 80 years old, he claims he's the healthiest human ever in typical Trump fashion, but do you think he looks in good nick for 80?
That's a good question. So generally, I do agree it's statistically unlikely anybody is the healthiest human. But there was like a report, I think from his doctor maybe like 6 or 12 months ago, that he had a cardiac age that was about 14 years younger than his actual age, which is something that is pretty positive in a sense. However, it's also like important to interpret that in a way that's like a little bit cautious, because it's like a relative measure, right? Like we talk about somebody being healthier than their age, but what matters in terms of predicting actual health outcomes is their objective health. Having a heart that's roughly at risk of cardiovascular disease as the average 65-year-old still just puts somebody at a greater risk bucket than a majority of the general population.
Got it. Okay, interesting. And he has had some health concerns. There's been rashes on his hand, kind of like sort of blood things, the swollen ankles. But I mean, I always say, look, the guy is 80. Of course he's not a 34-year-old. He's going to have some conditions. And he plays golf a lot. He's always walking around playing golf. Again, look there. I mean, he seems to get down that stairway to Air Force One better than Joe Biden ever did.
Yeah, so just in general, the rashes, things like that, like naturally it's hard, right? Because we always have limited amounts of information when evaluating what's going on with the public figure, independent of who that public figure is. And sometimes there are causes that are completely mundane. Sometimes there are underlying health issues, and we just really can't know. One thing that we do know that was reported was that he tends to consume like a large dose of aspirin, much more than the typical dose, which does predispose somebody towards soft tissue, basically like skin and stuff, getting like a little bit more bruised up. So that could realistically explain at least some amount of bruising. However, we never know if that is the only causal factor. Sometimes there's something obvious going on and there's something else also contributing.
Okay, and I will say, as a final sort of point or question to you to get your response on, previous presidents have maybe got checkups once a year. I think Biden was doing once a year. There was that sort of time, was it 2021, where he had a colonoscopy, and Kamala Harris, I think, briefly took power, actually, whilst he was under that procedure, as far as I remember. But Trump is seemingly getting checked up every 6 months so far. It's 3 times in the space of just over a year. Is that him trying to be transparent, or is there maybe something else going on?
That's a good question. That's something that's really hard to interpret, right? Because like people often try to use just what's normal for like the average person as a baseline, but realistically, when you're making a clinical decision for a regular citizen, you're weighing cost, time, physician time, etc., against how likely the test will be at predicting something that might actually impact this person's life. Somebody who's a head of state is in a really unique position. It makes sense that, you know, it's more likely that they'd take an abundance of caution and be able to justify that. It's plausible that it's due to some underlying health condition that we're not aware of, but it's also just as plausible that it's just taking an abundance of caution because it's easy to justify just getting an extra test done if it means your risk of catching something is, yeah.
Yeah, I get that. I'm really interested in health and fitness, and I literally 2 weeks ago got a full set of bloods done, 250 odd markers, just because I'm precautionary, but B, just very interested. I like seeing what my levels are like and what I'm low in and maybe what I could do to optimise things. So I guess Trump is an active guy. Maybe it's just as simple as that. He just likes to see how he's getting on and whether the burgers and the fries and the Diet Cokes are having an effect. So, yeah, interesting. Dominic, thank you so much. Appreciate you. That's Dominic Angelino, health, wellness, fitness and exercise expert. Tim, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm just struck at the fact that we had a president for 4 years who, like you said, was falling downstairs, was forgetting where he was having to be led around by the hand like an elderly old lady crossing the street. And most importantly, you talk about whether Trump is doing 2, Biden was doing 1 visit a year, Trump's doing 2. In May of 2025, we learned that President Joe Biden had stage 4 prostate cancer. God bless him. That's a horrible thing. That's a terrible diagnosis. What stage 4 leads me to believe is that they knew that when he was president. Remember, that was a few months after he left office.
Oh, they're all a bunch of lies. All of them.
A few months after, and yet somehow we're, the left loves to go after Trump for somehow not being in health. He's got scars on his hand, whatever, rashes on his hand, whatever. And all the while, we have somebody diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, very serious, a few months after leaving office. Not a chance in you-know-where that they didn't know about it.
Yeah, good. Best wishes to Joe Biden. I hope he can manage that disease as best he can. However, him and his entire team, Kamala Harris, all the Democrats, forget the cancer, his cognitive decline was evident to everybody.
For sure.
To everybody. And they said it was some sort of right-wing conspiracy theory that he wasn't in good shape. We even had Keir Starmer once saying, oh yeah, I just met the president, Biden, he's in good shape, he's fitter and sharper than ever. Absolute BS.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that there should be age restrictions on the presidency. There's age restrictions on driving, right? There should be some kind of cognitive test that comes along with it to measure intelligence. Something I think that actually we should hold Donald Trump to, and I don't think that necessarily he wouldn't pass maybe a reading comprehension or an intelligence test himself. But the thing is, and it's not the left or the right, I think that we have boomers running our political system, right? We have all these old people who don't necessarily understand what will be good for the future of America and Americans, because the future they're building isn't for them, right? So I really do think that we need to bring
Trump's got kids and grandkids. I'm sure he loves them and cares about them.
He's building the future then for the younger generation, but not for him, and not really understanding what millennials need or want. Well, he's often building it off of what his kids need, or not necessarily about what we need as a whole.
Then you should start a groundswell. You should start a groundswell to elect somebody who is actually younger. I mean, we did this. We've done this. We did this with John F. Kennedy. We did this with Barack Obama. And they were terrible presidents. So, I mean, I think it's...
If we look at the Republican movement, it actually is splitting into that direction. And part of something, I caught up with Joe Kent, who is the former National Security Advisor to Tulsi Gabbard. And, he very much talked about this split, right? The split of, how the young Republicans are going against the boomers, how boomers are often associated with this groupthink, and how they're tied to MAGAism and that collective thought.
If you're taking advice from Joe Kent on where the Republican Party is, you need better sources, because Joe Kent is in the 0.005% of where the Republican Party is.
Again, I'm talking about the future.
The youth in the Republican Party by 85% are MAGA. They are for President Trump. That's where they are.
Not true. There's multiple reports from multiple different outlets coming out saying that the youth votes. I didn't just go to Joe Kent. The Economist just came out with a report saying that MAGA has a huge problem with their young men. Look at the support that's coming around nationwide for Thomas Massey, who is a Republican figure, a conservative figure.
Massey.
He is.
There was a YouGov poll recently asking people, the so-called MAGA base, quote unquote,
that's my point,
about their support for the Iran war. So just 8% said they disagreed with Trump on Iran. That's the likes of Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Joe Kent, all that lot. 8%. It's not a lot. That's the MAGA base. So for the most part, according to that poll, maybe polls are.
Yeah, and people are also categorizing the young Republicans
Joe
now.
Kent and Massey are not MAGA. Just so you know, Joe Kent and Tom Massey are not MAGA.
They were at one point,
so
right? Like Thomas Massey agreed with President Trump on 91% of the issues, something like this. So they are very tied to that.
We're kind of veering off to a different conversation now. Paul Cox, when was the last time you got a health check? Do you bother? Do you want to know, actually? Because I'm really interested in health checks and sort of blood work and stuff and health and fitness, but I understand some people probably don't want to know. I can feel like my mum's the same. She doesn't want to know about any of that stuff. When the day comes, the day will come.
Yeah, last full-on health check I had was January 25. Fortunately, all markers were clear. An NHS one, so probably not as many markers as you had in the US recently, Ben. But I did, and you know, I was quite pleased. At that time, towards the end of 25, beginning of 24, beginning of 25, I was a bit lighter than I am now. I'd been keeping a bit more on top of things, shall we say, Ben. So I do concern myself with it because I do overeat. I'm 46 years old and I work at night, either in a comedy club or on the greatest news channel on planet Earth, which is this one, by the way, in case anyone's in any doubt. And so I am interested, and I will go again. Do you know what I'll do, though? I'll probably go in 6 months when I've worked on my weight a little bit more, and I'll keep going back every time I've lost weight to see where I am. What I need to do is go when I'm a little bit overweight like I am now.
Yeah, interesting. All right, good stuff. Yeah, apparently I think it's hereditary. My cholesterol's pretty high, which is, I mean, I don't know why.
You're at the age, my brother, you have to start taking a little pill called statin. Next thing you know, you're like me and you go back and your doctor says, wow, you're perfect.
No, I think mine's hereditary. I've had high cholesterol for years and years and years and years and years. But also I had other markers taken about inflammation and blocked arteries, and I don't have any plaque, or I don't know.
But you still look good with your shirt off, though, so that's all that matters.
Can we stop talking about that? I'll start charging you guys a fee. $4.99 for free content.
I'm definitely not going to clip it up tomorrow, Ben.
Yeah, okay, good. All right. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Any comments on your side? Let's touch in with you guys at home. Blah, blah, blah. Pseudo Massa said, I did for years. Now I just rely on old man's strength and alcohol. Well done. The Democrats are finished. Yeah, okay. Oh, Angelina, don't be so cutting on boomers, apparently. Okay, right, still ahead on The Late Show Live tonight.
In addition to flying 2 NASA science payloads, Scalps, a lunar retro-reflector array, the mission objective is to demonstrate critical capabilities that reduce risk for the human landing system missions.
Liftoff. NASA has revealed a bold plan to build a permanent moon base near the lunar South Pole. That's aiming for humans to live there long term by around 2032. Not too long in the grand scheme of things. I'll speak to a couple of space boffins next. First though, let's get your weather here on Earth.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure still holding on for most of us today. Plenty of sunny spells, the risk of a few thundery showers and a little cooler for most of us. Those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern parts of England too. A bit of a northeasterly breeze here through the day, but the clouds should lift and break. Elsewhere, plenty of sunshine, but we could see some clouds bubbling up into the afternoon. The risk of some showers across parts of Wales, the West Midlands in particular. In the southwest, we'll see temperatures reaching the low 30s, but much cooler towards the north and east, around 14 to 15 Celsius along some eastern coast, so chillier compared to recent days. Into this evening time, the risk of further showers, but if we zoom into Scotland, a fine end to the day here. Plenty of sunny spells, temperatures in the mid-teens. Still rather cloudy though across towards Edinburgh, down towards the borders, but there'll be some glimmers of sunshine. Similar across Northern Ireland, plenty of sunshine to end the day. And the risk of showers across Wales into the Midlands. Some of these are thundery at times, but lots of places dry and still very warm in that evening sunshine with temperatures in the mid to high 20s in places. Showers will feed north and eastwards as we move through the rest of the evening and overnight across England and Wales. Some heavy downpours developing, the odd rumble of thunder possible. Elsewhere, generally dry, particularly across parts of Scotland, and temperatures here in the countryside will dip into single figures. But for most, another warm night, not quite as as warm as recent nights, but staying in double figures. Thursday is a bit more of a mixed day, some low cloud across parts of Wales and southwest England around the coast, showers pushing northwards, but plenty of sunshine in between. The sunshine quite abundant across parts of Scotland and into Northern Ireland for a time before some cloud moves in here. Later on in the day, some high cloud across England and Wales later, the risk of a few showers. Temperatures once again the high 20s to low 30s towards the south.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Right, NASA has revealed a big, bold plan to build a permanent moon base near the lunar South Pole, aiming for humans to live there long-term by around 2032.
The Blue Origin Mark I Endurance lander will deliver multiple payloads to the Shackleton Connecting Ridge, a strategic area of the lunar South Pole. In addition to flying 2 NASA science payloads, SCALPs, a lunar retroreflector array, the mission objective is to demonstrate critical capabilities that reduce risk for the human landing system missions.
The project is part of the Artemis program and will use a series of robotic and crewed missions starting as early as 2026. Private companies like Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin and Astrobotic are expected to help deliver landers, rovers and equipment to the surface. And NASA says the goal is to create a sustained human presence on the moon as a stepping stone eventually to Mars. Can you believe it? With multiple missions building up infrastructure over the next decade. With me now is godmother of space law and executive director of the Center for Air and Space Law, University of Mississippi, Michelle Hanlon. Hello, Michelle. That's a long old title. I'll just call you a space expert if you don't mind. This is great news. I had the privilege of being down at the Artemis 2 launch in Florida with my family, and now Artemis 3 is what? Setting the stepping stones for a base on the moon. If you could just educate us.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. Artemis 3 is actually going to be a mission with astronauts who are just going to test the stuff that's going to go to the moon. So the next time our humans go to space, they'll be going just into orbit and making sure that they can dock with the Blue Origin and SpaceX capsules. But what Jared Isaacman is talking about, though, is just an incredible blueprint that moves from 2028, because even as we're testing the human aspects, we're still sending robots to the moon to start laying the groundwork so that humans can live and work there.
That's amazing. And is the permanent goal to have a permanent human existence on the moon, or is this just some sort of temporary stepping stone for, I don't know, for a select few of humans, a select, a couple of hundred, maybe 1,000 or 2 humans to operate space operations from the moon?
No, this is absolutely the future. When you think about it, think about how the humans spread across the Earth, right? This is the same thing. It might not be, that we have an entire city the size of New York by 2040, but people are going to start living and working there more permanently. And it's going to be a gateway. As you mentioned, it's a gateway to Mars. And so if you think about when you go on a cruise to the Antarctica, right, you will go to an island in Argentina first. So if you want to get anywhere in space, you're going to end up going to the moon first. And so the moon is going to have services. They're going to need bakers. They're going to need dry cleaners. So that's how we're going to build that community, a full-time, full-fledged community on the moon.
Michelle, it makes me giggle because it's so exciting. And it's so currently unbelievable. But I use this example, Michelle, which is, could you imagine maybe 150 years ago, if you told somebody, oh, in the 1960s, we're going to put man on the moon, they'd just laugh at you and say, what are you talking about? Not possible, don't have the technology, it's the stuff of science fiction. Which is, again, I guess, kind of where we are now when we talk about colonizing Mars and having dry cleaners on the moon and so on. Do you get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. There was actually a New York Times article back in the 1910s, 1920s, which said there's no way humans can go to space. That is absurd. So you can see how fast it changes. And then also going back to Orville, right? It was 1904. It didn't take us very long to go from, throwing some sticks together with some paper tissue between to having a shuttle, to landing on the moon. So, and things are just going to get incrementally faster. It's going to be a blink and you'll miss it moment. You're going to look back on the 2030s and be like, wow, that was amazing.
Michelle, very quick question before I hand over to my panellist here tonight. Tim Dosha wants to ask you a question. I'm 36, Michelle, 36-year-old male from Great Britain. What are the chances that I will one day go to the moon? Maybe just as a tourist where it's affordable.
I would bet that you will go. No question. It will be doable, and it will be affordable for the middle class.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine seeing Earthrise, that famous picture from, was it Apollo 14, of Earthrise, seeing that yourself as a human being standing on the moon? Michelle, I hope you're right. I would cry with happiness. Anyway, Tim Dosha's here. He wants to ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Hi, Michelle. This is such a great topic. I mean, what a worldwide unifying issue here. It's an incredible thing. So 1962, John F. Kennedy said, we choose to go to the moon. And then we went to the moon, a few years later. And then, of course, we were dabbling back and forth, all that stuff going there. And now, finally, President Trump has said, we're not just going to go to the moon. We're going to start building a presence on the moon. My question is this is an extremely expensive endeavor for a federal government to pay for. What does the private investment in moon colonies look like? Can you talk a little bit about that? Are there companies lining up to, send 2x4s? I don't know, Ben, do you build stuff out with regular wood on the moon? I mean, how are things constructed?
So this is what's incredibly exciting about this movement is it's very different from Apollo. John F. Kennedy challenged this nation to get humans to the moon. President Trump is challenging this nation to get humans to the moon and then to Mars. And guess what? We're not doing it the way we did Apollo. Apollo, we had NASA scientists draw up the plans and say, Northrop, produce this for us, and then we'll use it. Now the government is saying, we're going to use commercial services. And what does that mean? That means SpaceX does stuff for the government, and it does stuff for private civilians as well. And so this is how we're going to build that economy. Every service is not going to be just the government's going to be the first user, perhaps, but then you're going to have people, Astrobotic, maybe they will mine water ice, and then maybe, Interluna is going to come along and say, oh, we need some of that water ice, we'll buy it from you. And then we have commerce. And I just want to point out, this is this intersection of activities. We have a time where the government is committed to using commercial services, and we have an IPO where, imagine most of the people who are going to make the most money from that IPO, the SpaceX IPO, are into space. So where are they going to invest all the money that they make? They're going to invest it right into their own new space companies or into other space endeavors. Right. This is it. This is our combustion point.
Yeah, Elon Musk is going to open some Wawa service stations on the moon. I suspect that's his next investment. Michelle, thank you so much. Great conversation with you. Please come back. We want you in the future on GB News. Appreciate you very much. Michelle Hanlon. gbnews.com/your say. Let's get the thoughts from Vice President of Space Development at the National Space Society, Greg Autry. Greg, great to see you on this. I'm sure you've been listening to our conversation. I guess the comparisons with the space race from the 60s is that we were against the Americans were racing against the Soviets and the communists. Now you're racing against the communists. This time, though, it's China. China very keen to get there first and establish their own colony. Greg. Oh, are you there, Greg? I think his.
Sure.
Oh, he's there. You're back. Go on, Greg. We lost you for a second.
I'm always happy to be on after Michelle Hanlon. She's amazing. So, this is World War 2.0 and Space Race 2.0, as I covered in my recent book, Red Moon Rising. But, the bottom line is, Michelle got it. We're approaching this very differently because we are not going to beat the Chinese at communism. A giant governmental, centrally planned engineering project is what the Chinese government does really, really well. That's their superpower. Our superpower is unlocking the entrepreneurs and disruptors to go after a market in the future with some guidance from the government to help make that happen in a way that is strategically beneficial for the U.S. and our Artemis Accord allies in the West.
Who's going to prosper long term then? Okay, maybe the Chinese will get there first because you've got the central planners, the government are whipping everybody into shape. But I guess if you think of maybe, for example, Chernobyl, what I was talking about with someone the other day, they were so ingrained on making sure that the states and the planners were impeccably received in terms of sort of public reputation and so on, that it all went wrong. Whereas I guess with capitalism, when you've got more stakeholders involved, you've got private entities all competing, sharing ideas. Is it fair to say, Greg, and again, tell me if I'm talking absolute rubbish, is it fair to say if you've got more private people involved instead of a sort of centralised communist government, then the chances are less things will go wrong because more ideas are being shared and you're not covering your own backs all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. I would compare this more to the U.S. Transcontinental Railroad, where the government decided for geopolitically strategic reasons that they needed access to California on the West Coast. And that was in the middle of the Civil War. How were they going to do that? The government was kind of busy. So what they did was make it work for a lot of different private companies to build the railroad and put in the infrastructure that would serve both government needs and, more importantly, the future economic needs of a frontier.
And Greg, also, how much of this is being pursued by America and the government and the private entities because of the need to expand human consciousness in space? And how much of it is, oh, we just need to beat the Chinese to it to cover them off?
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's both, right? And, I sometimes say, God bless the Chinese Communist Party, because they give us a reason to compete. And competition is what makes our country great, which makes our allies great. We're going to go and do things faster and better than we would have if we didn't have any motivation to do it. That's why Space Race 1.0 went so quick. It was 13 years from Sputnik, which was just a little basketball that went beep, 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 to putting Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong on the moon, right? Just 13 years, right? That was because of the intense sense of competition. So we're there again. We're going back, but we're going back to stay this time, do the economic development. The moon base that Administrator Isaacman outlined covers up to hundreds of square kilometers of lunar space. It's more like Moon Base Alpha than a moon camping trip.
Oh, wow, I'm so excited. And Greg, last question before I let you go. I'm just going to rinse you for your expertise. Maybe you won't be able to answer, actually. It's more of an evolution question, sort of Darwin, the series of evolution. Will there be a time, do you think, in the millennia ahead of us where humans will be able to live on the moon without the need for being in controlled environments, without tanks and oxygen and so on? Will the human body develop to the environment on the moon?
Well, it's entirely possible that we will adapt to the low gravity environment of the moon, and we may need to adapt ourselves to do that. So you might see genetic engineering. We don't know whether we can gestate a child or even an animal on the moon in low gravity. That's not been tested. Will we survive without oxygen in a vacuum? No. There'll always be some sort of or dome or protective environment involved at that point. On the other hand, we're expanding ourselves through robotic systems, and that's a key part of Administrator Isaacman's plan, is to get these moonfall drones hopping around the moon, to make the rovers that will carry people also autonomous. I'm sure we'll be sending humanoid robots. So we'll be carrying ourselves forward in an automated an AI role as well as a biological role.
Awesome.
It'll be an exciting
so exciting. So emotional for me as well. I hope Michelle's right, and one day I can get to the moon, and maybe my two sweet boys, will one day be on Mars as well. Who knows? Greg, thank you so much. Appreciate you being on the show. Greg Autry, Vice President of Space Development at the National Space Society. Paul Cox, let's get your thoughts. Somebody said, it was a very funny comment because I laughed out loud. It said something about how long before the lunar base is full of Turkish barbers and vape shops?
Well, not very long, I wouldn't have thought. Do you know what, Ben? One of the things I really like is seeing people happy, genuinely, and looking at your face when she told you that you possibly could be going to Mars or the moon was just one of my favourite moments. It was, honestly, Ben, you were like, it was like you were 10. You were like, what, me? Willy Wonka had just given you the golden ticket. Fantastic. I wouldn't want it. we've had this discussion before, Ben. You're much braver than me. I just think, no, I'll wait till there's a Domino's there. I'll go up. I'll see how I'll go up for a couple of weeks and come back. But I'm not. I'm really, I don't know, I haven't got the brave. I think it takes a lot of bravery. You said something really poignant the other night, Ben. Someone said, would you go to Mars? And almost sneered at you and said, would you go to Mars, Ben? You said, if I could be the first man on Mars, and maybe it would mean I wouldn't see my children, but I was known throughout human history for doing that, I would do it. We need men like you, Ben. I'm not that man.
Oh. Thanks, Paul. I think you've been very generous. Lots of people attacked me for that comment. They said I was speaking through egos, saying I just wanted to be known like Neil Armstrong, and it was because I want to be famous kind of thing. It wasn't. It was for me, and believe me or not, I don't care. It was the privilege of, if it ever happened, being able to be that person to expand human consciousness in a historic moment of reaching Mars. And also, it's just cool. Like, imagine travelling to Mars or the Moon. It's just like, what an amazing thing to do. Tim?
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, is what the astronauts said when they had their first glance at Earth from space. And I think getting closer to our Creator, whoever you think this is an absolute worthwhile endeavor that we need to pursue. And it excites me that we are now expanding our economic presence and an interstellar level. Is that the right word, Ben? I don't know if that's right, but in a non-earthling capacity. And I'm telling you, if there's one country or one group that's able to do that, it is the capitalist people here in the United States of America who see no limit. There's no limit to what we can reach and no height which is too high. And so it's very, very exciting. And sign me up. I'll take my entire family. It'll be just fine.
Oh, great stuff. Ain't no mountain high enough. We're going to the moon and Mars, you know. Do you care about any of this, or does it not really?
Look, I think God, He put us on Earth. He created Earth for us. I don't think that we necessarily need to go beyond where God put us. I think that humanity doesn't always necessarily have its priorities straight, right? There's a lot of things going on here around the world that need our attention, and it seems like we're really just dumping in this money to, I don't know, maybe scientific discovery. There's also talks about security with Russia and China. But again, I'm someone who, personally, I believe that humans should stay on Earth and really focus on humanity. Like, we're talking about aliens possibly.
That's
being
so
here.
lame. Oh, that's lame.
Boring. As Nigel Farage would say.
Oh, Angelina looks genuinely upset by that. I feel like I should defend her.
I know, sorry.
It's okay. Look, I'm up against 3 men, 1 woman saying, what about humanity? And you guys are like, no, let's go conquer space.
Yes, Queen.
We're getting carried away. I've got my testosterone results back. They're off the scale. I'm just throwing it around. I'm sorry,
Angela, you can go hang out in Indiana while we go hang out on the moon.
I'll hang out in California. Indiana's the last place I would go to hang out. Like, what?
You can come with me, Angelina, to the moon. We'll go up there together. We'll have fun. Right, let's go through the papers one last time. Starting with the Metro. No, it's not the Metro. It's, excuse me, the Daily Record up in Scotland. Bring Nick to book. Nicola Sturgeon, married to Murrell for 15 years, didn't know anything about his 400 grand embezzlement, didn't know there was a massive camper van parked somewhere, didn't know about the posh coffee machine makers or pencil sharpeners, didn't know anything at all. And do you know what? I believe her, because she was married to him for 15 years. And why would she know anything? The Independent, why Labour must return to the radical centre to reverse Britain's decline, Tony Blair. The iPaper, Britain at risk of becoming irrelevant, that's according to Blair, who turns on Labour rivals. Daily Express, step up Keir to stop kids dying. This is a story about bereaved parents about showing courage of social media. The Guardian, Russia relentlessly targeting UK infrastructure, according to spy chiefs. The Metro, my bros 7 months in Dubai hellhole. The Mail, now Blair's savages, Labour's lurch to the left. Telegraph, what's the Telegraph? I haven't got the Telegraph. There's the Telegraph. Blair, Starmer has no plan for Britain. Times, lurch to left puts Britain at risk. Blair tells Labour. The Mirror, the right decision. The Sun, paddling falls. Before we say goodnight, I just wanted to say congratulations to Tim Dosha, who is a brand new father. who's had, if you don't mind me saying, a little bit of a rough time in recent weeks because your baby, your sweetheart, what's her name? Just tell us what's happened. Just tell
Annie,
the audience.
little Annie. Yeah.
And you came out of special care today.
She was born 4 weeks and a few days early, and had she just needed some time to learn how to take a bottle.
Yeah.
And so we were disciplined and dedicated in the intensive care unit, and our little one came home today.
Oh.
And we just.
Oh, mate.
Just watching her in her room and her crib. It's just.
Yeah.
That's the way things should be. You know?
Man. I'm with you. I feel.
It's the way go have kids, Great Britain. Go have kids.
So Annie's your first child?
Yes, first little one. Yeah.
And just explain how's it changed your perception of life, going from having no kids to having little Annie?
I opened up a college savings account. I opened up a Trump account, and I opened up a bank account today for her. But more than that, it has led me to realize how selfish my life has been.
Yeah. Well said.
And that's okay. It's okay to be selfish. You got to take care of yourself. But now it's time to take care of Annie.
And your wife is okay?
And you know what? I'm sorry. I should have mentioned her first. My wife is an absolute legend. An emergency C-section, which is not fun. And she's recovered. She walked out of there carrying our little baby in the little bassinet. So it was very, very cute.
Mate, well done. I'm really happy for you. There's no other love like it. And I'm so happy she's home. My little boy Jude, he was in special care for 2 weeks. He was 6 weeks early. It's a hard time when you're in there. You have to leave your baby every night in hospital. You go home.
Yep.
You worry about them. You see them the next day. It's not how you imagined, I guess, having a child initially. But I'm glad she's home. Well done, mate. I'm pleased.
And that's why my wife is so incredible, because she had to spend 3 weeks without her.
Well,
so
best of luck to Annie and your missus, and to you as well, Tim. Thanks for tonight. Angelina, thank you so much. Paul, thank you so much as well. Sorry we didn't get to chat. Viewers and listeners, I will see you again from tomorrow night, midnight in the UK. Until then, enjoy your Wednesday. I think the weather's still going to be quite hot, and I'll see you tomorrow evening from midnight. Sweet dreams, good night, see you tomorrow. Wow, goodbye.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. High pressure still holding on for most of us today. Plenty of sunny spells, the risk of a few thundery showers, and a little cooler for most of us. Those temperatures still above average. Some low cloud this morning across eastern Scotland, stretching down into eastern